Alright, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Gwent Rogue Mage, and it has been a while. I think about 2 weeks. Unfortunately, after recording and streaming a whole lot, I lost my voice / just absolutely destroyed my throat and sinuses and what have you, and had to tone things down a little bit when it came to doing all that stuff to try to recover a bit. Feeling better today though, and that means we are back in for some more Rogue Mage. And just as a reminder, because it's been, I think, about 2 weeks at this point, we have now successfully finished a run for every deck archetype and every leader ability for each archetype. And then after doing that, we started to shift gears a little bit and focus instead on a couple of different things that we really wanted to do but never had the chance to focus on entirely. So last time we finished a chaos run for the first time ever, and we deliberately even took our spells to be as RNG randomization centric as possible, and somehow we found a way to take the win. This time, rather than focus on the randomness, we are instead going to focus entirely on trying to score as many points as possible. And you say, well, Lids, I mean, isn't that always the objective of the game? Well, yes, and also no, because in the past, we have certainly had at least one run in particular in which we scored a whole bunch of points. But to a certain extent, scoring points is, yes, a good thing, of course, but if your opponent has a way of, say, copying your most powerful card or removing all the boosts or destroying your most powerful card, then, well, did I already say that? No, you know what I mean. Copying, destroying, or removing all the boosts on your most powerful card, all those things and more are ways in which our opponent could potentially just completely reverse our highly boosted cards and decks. And so that's why in the past, even for those decks that have scored a lot of points, we haven't necessarily gone all in on the boost. This time, we're going to say, you know, to heck with maximizing our probability of winning. That may not happen this time, but we are just all about scoring as many points as possible, trying to break 1,000. We got kind of close on one occasion, and I think the question here is going to be, was that just a stroke of luck? Or is that actually a methodology that we might be able to repeat here, and by going all in on scoring points, break that 1,000 point threshold? So how did we make that happen before? We went for, is it Hive Mind? Yes, Hive Mind with the Detloff Higher Vampire, because what he does is when you consume him, he will then get summoned back onto the board. Now, initially, you can only do this a couple of times, right? Limited to 4 uses and does not refresh when it leaves the battlefield. So you can do that 4 times, and you want to consume him with the Slizzard in particular. However, once you upgrade him, there no longer is that 4-time limit, and every time you do it, he also increases his power by 1. That's just with 1 elite battle completed. And that is a substantial upgrade, because he goes from having a very finite number of points he can score to a quite literally infinite number of points you can score if you have enough consumption to keep on doing that. So that means by upgrading Detloff and by creating probably as many copies as possible of the Slizzard to repeat the consumption, we can not only continue to consume him, but increase his power every time we do so. So that's, generally speaking, going to be the name of the game for us. That's going to be our primary strategy. So we're going to try to do any and everything we can to build around that. Then the other thing that we did that was also helping us score a whole bunch of points on that previous run that we did with Detloff, Higher Vampire, Hive Mind, was we got a specific treasure. In fact, why don't we take a quick look back here, just to peek at it. A specific treasure that was a huge addition, because by doubling an allied unit's power, what we could do was, over the course of the match, consume Detloff over and over again with those Slizzards, and then even if we had multiple Slizzards, we would basically just consolidate all of our power into one single Slizzard by consuming everything with that last Slizzard, and then on our last turn, double the power of that Slizzard. So that's basically our goal. Create as many Slizzards as possible, upgrade Detloff as many times as possible. Then the question that I think is going to be top of mind for this run is, how likely are we to actually get this Girdle of Giant Strength? Is that the thing that we got super lucky on and we can't count on that happening again? Or if we do make this happen, I think we're in good shape if we can make that happen for sure. If we don't, then I think it's going to be up to us getting some specific spells that we might not have had access to previously that could also expedite our point scoring processes. Because we now have access to Mirror Image, which spawns a 1 power copy of an allied unit on its row. And usually, when we're doing this all-in on Detloff plus Slizzard strategy, the bottleneck for this deck is the Slizzards. Because, again, once you upgrade Detloff, the only limit to how many points you can score is how much consumption you have. So, creating additional Detloffs doesn't actually benefit us much at all. We just always want to consume the Detloff that has the most power, right? And so we just ignore the 1 power copy that we create. But if we can create 1 power copies of the Slizzard, then that just gives us an additional way to consume Detloff every single turn, and that can snowball quickly. That can definitely add up. Basically creating a feedback loop. So, or compound, I should say. So that's our goal, I think, is by adding things like Mirror Image, and why don't we dump Rat Swarm? I think Visions. So this is also what I was referring to, or one of the things that I was alluding to when I said we're going to go all in on trying to score as many points as possible. In the past, we tried to create well-rounded decks. Decks that, yes, can score a lot of points, but if our opponent has a very high priority card that we want to get rid of because it's dangerous, then we made sure we generally had something like Thunder, or even Masterful Thunder to destroy those cards. If we were really far behind, then we wanted to make sure we had ways to fight our way back with stuff like Portal. But this time round, if we sacrifice those types of things and just go all in on maximizing our points and maximizing this specific combo, then basically when the matchup is right, things could go wonderfully for us. When the matchup is not, then less so. But that's basically the risk that we're taking here, and why I don't really think we're going to win this run, but we're just going to try to do whatever we can to break 1,000 points. I think Masterful Rapid Evolution, definitely not something we're looking for here. I think Cleanse, although not all that special looking, what this does is it gives us a way to make sure that or make it safer for our Slizzards to stay alive, because when we play the Slizzard, it cannot immediately consume. It needs 1 turn before it can use that order ability. So I think just having that 1 turn of safety where you play the Slizzard, boost it up a little bit more so it's more out of removal range in case your opponent has some damage. Then, once it can use its order ability, at that point it's consuming a Detloff, it gets much bigger, and at that point it's probably pretty safe. So I think we might still want to include Cleanse, and that's at least 1 low energy spell, but that's the other thing is, if we're trying to just basically pick and choose the specific match, or maybe match is plural, in which we're going for that 1,000 points, then maybe that means we're trying to skimp on by with using as little energy as possible until we reach that point, and then we might break out some really expensive spells like Mirror Image. So I like these two. Portal is good for when we find ourselves behind and needing to make a comeback, so that is potentially still something we'd like to include. Again, probably the most logical thing if we were just trying to win would be to take some form of damage with Thunder or Masterful Thunder, but it's not necessarily what we are aiming to do here. I mean, this could give us a ton of Vitality on highly boosted cards, but problem is Vitality maxes out at 1 point per turn, so even if we use this and the 3 adjacent cards have 100 points apiece, they might get 100 Vitality, but it's still only going to boost them collectively by 3 every turn. So that's, I think, not as good as it might initially appear. And because we're focusing on the consumption, I'm not sure Masterful Cleanse makes that much sense. Visions is probably the best for the combo specifically, just because if we were to dump you and put you in, that would mean that we can make sure that if we were relying really heavily on this Slizzard, we definitely want to make sure that we get it, right? If it gets stuck in our deck and we never see it in a match, then we are in a lot of trouble. So because we've this card, and obviously Detloff, 2 cards that are really important for us to get, this is a way to make sure that we actually see those cards and give us some consistency. So technically, doesn't necessarily directly equate to points, but just vastly increases our consistency so we can, when the moment seems right, make our move. So I think we might go for that. Again, not very well rounded. Boost, spawn a copy of Likely Slizzard, and then make sure that we get our initial Slizzard or this Detloff. But no damage is the most glaring omission here. But I think we will accept that. And let's see. So we do have some high energy spells. So it's not a terrible idea. We have, in general, had a lot of success with the Archmage's Flask. I mean, mulligans could also help to increase our consistency there. Would that be reason enough to dump Visions and instead take a damaging spell? You could potentially make a case for that. Upgrading everything in our starting deck by 1 is actually pretty interesting because it makes the Slizzard a little bit harder for our opponents to remove. Again, that first turn in which we play the Slizzard is the most dangerous one because if it immediately gets destroyed before it can do any of that consumption, then our combo is lost and basically our whole deck falls apart. Once it gets that first turn of consumption, then it becomes much harder for them to get rid of. So that, and also it means that Detloff is 1 point higher, not only initially, but every subsequent time that we consume him. So that, again, compounds. It all adds up. So, in truth, although that might mean that we're only looking at 2 base power more on our key cards, you know, if we're consuming Detloff 5 times in a match, then that's 5 more points from that. I don't think we can afford to do this because if we lose this Lizard, then our deck is just dead. Not sure this works all that much either. I mean, if it happens to go on the Lizard, that's great, but anyone else, it's not that useful. If it goes on Detloff, that's not a huge deal because Detloff we're going to consume anyway, and then he's going to lose the boost when he comes back out, and we aren't as concerned about him getting destroyed from our opponent's damage because he'll still come back out. Now this actually, technically speaking, this is very intriguing. Because if first spell we play, if the first spell we play is Mirror Image, then this is incredibly valuable. Because then we can create 2 additional Slizzards in 1 turn, and that means we are consuming Detloff at a much, much faster rate. So that is, and this is also a very expensive spell, so it's a way to save a little bit of energy as well. But the problem is, if we are thinking in general we need to play this Lizard and then boost this Lizard with Cleanse, that was kind of the whole reason for us taking Cleanse, then Cleanse is the first special card that we use in a match in all likelihood, and that suddenly means that, well, we're getting an extra Cleanse, and that's not nearly as intriguing. So it's a little tough given how it is dependent entirely upon having Slizzard at the very beginning and having enough confidence to play Slizzard turn 1 and not worry about him getting destroyed. I mean, technically, I suppose our initial Slizzard could get destroyed, and then we still have the 2 additional copies that we spawn in with the Mirror Image and with the Glacial Decanter. So that's maybe, that's still kind of safe, but we've never used it before. You know what? We'll try it. We'll try it. Okay, then the other thing. What's up, Anor? Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to say that I'm feeling way better, because, I mean, I did on at least 1 or 2 prior occasions feel like I was starting to make an improvement, and then, for whatever reason, the following day I woke up, even after getting a really good night's sleep and what have you, and it's like, oh, now I feel terrible. What happened? I don't really know. I thought I did everything that should have made myself more likely to feel better in the morning, and then, not the case. So, still a little concerned about that potential outcome, but we will see. We will see. But I'm glad to be back playing some Rogue Mage, because it's been a long time. So for this, for our curses here, I know we were previously doing an Adept run, and in general we've been trying to stick on whatever the highest difficulty we have available to us is. However, on this occasion, I think we lower either everything down to 0, or we say, you know, if there's anything that we can still do without having to be too worried about about messing with our point total here. Basically, I just don't want to do anything that's going to make it impossible for us to reach 1,000 points, because that's the primary objective here. Again, don't really care about winning all that much for this run. Don't really care about, you know, how far we make it, or, you know, are we pushing the limits in terms of difficulty. For me, with this run, it's all about just trying to hit 1,000 points or higher. So, you know, if there are things like, you know, the fog, I mean, we probably want to hunt down as many elite battles as possible, so I think we probably want to make sure we can see those things and plot our route accordingly. I mean, technically this doesn't affect how many points we can score, but rather not go that route. Definitely want treasure maps, treasure chests, because we have at least one that we really want to get. Maximum upgrade value of units is reduced. I mean, technically that's not a huge deal if we add one of those in, because that's the units that we get as rewards from winning a run, or winning a match. And, you know, sometimes you get the higher base power versions, which, I mean, yes, occasionally means you'll get 1, 2, or 3 extra points in a match, but you know, that's, for the most part, not going to be the difference maker here. I mean, if we happen to get 997, then, alright, you can feel free to say I told you so, but for the most part, you know, either we are going to get very close or way past 1,000, or we're going to be nowhere near. Basically, if we get this combo happening, we're in really good shape. If we don't get it happening, then we are nowhere close. And so anything that disrupts this combo, no good. Anything that kind of leaves that alone, maybe we can consider throwing it on. So, does this get us up? If we bump this all the way, it does not even get us up to the level 2 difficulty, the name of which I do not remember. But I think things like, I mean, if we can get a Slizzard reward from completing a run, that would be the one thing that I would say. It's like, if we happen to get a coincidental Slizzard showing up as a reward from winning a match, then we'd love for that to have higher base power. And that's why I think we probably do still keep our maximum number of choices, keep our energy outside of battles, keep our cooldown as is, don't mess with curses. I mean, technically, potentially consider doing this, not being able to skip. I mean, yes, it could potentially mess with our consistency if we're forced into taking a card that we don't really want, but maybe we can still manage with that. Enemies starting with treasures, row space reduced, enemies start with additional points. I mean, we could give our enemy a few additional points, but I think start with additional armor. We aren't really doing anything when it comes to damage. Like, do we have a single damaging card? We have, you start with Hjalmar? Yeah, Hjalmar is 1 damaging card, and Werecat, sort of. But my point is, maybe this doesn't matter much. And maybe that means we can bump this down. Yeah. I think that's probably preferable. Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah, thanks, Honor. So yeah, I think, so again, trying to get to 1,000 points. That is the primary, really the only objective here. Everything else is secondary, if not tertiary, and it's a way, way down the priority list, which is why we're going with far fewer curses. We are going with spells that are not necessarily all that well-rounded. They are just all centered around trying to pull off this combo as aggressively as possible. And the other thing that I think we might even consider doing here is we might try our hand at a few different seeds, a few different layouts. Basically, what I mean by that is start a new run, look at it. If there's, for example, 1 elite battle in the entire run, we might just restart and try a different one, because we probably want to get as many elite battles as possible, because getting 1 is crucially important to make it so Detloff can be resummoned as many times as possible. And then if we get additional upgrades, then from additional elite battles, it goes from increasing his value by 1 every time we do it to increasing his value by 3. And we have not even seen what happens after that. So, I mean, if he scales even more quickly with additional upgrades, then the more elite battles, the better. That's another reason why I'm a little reluctant to, you know, go crazy on some of this difficulty stuff, like adding additional points to our opponents, because we want to go at the elite battles as early as possible and as often as possible So, you know, giving our elite opponents more points is probably not really something we want to be messing with. So let's hop in. Ah, okay, we actually haven't seen this before because we've always been going on our highest difficulty. That's interesting. That's interesting. So technically speaking, if we are to do this, we have no chance of getting mutagens. Okay, that's good to know. I think that's still okay. So that means that we're not making any progress with regard to the overarching story. I think we can still accept that because, again, I'm not even sure we're going to win this. That's not really the primary objective here. We're just trying to score 1,000 points. And so if we get to 1,000 points mid-run and then run into a snag partway through and end up losing, then that's still, I think, mission accomplished, and we'll probably abandon ship from there and say, all right, been there, done that. And maybe then, if we're still interested in going further, then we can, you know, switch back to loading up on the difficulty and progressing the story further. Because that is another question that I had that I think I had mentioned at the end of our previous run or two, was that, I mean, after having finished a run with all of our archetypes and leaders, key cards, do we have interest in pursuing further until we finish the main storyline? Or was that really all we wanted to see? And looking at the run here, so I'm eyeing the number of elite battles because I think that's the primary thing we're looking to target here. So we've won there. Then is it still possible to make it down south in time to make it to those elite battles? I think so, but what does that entail? Go here, this elite battle, or maybe even this. Oh, the other thing is, so what are we looking for? What is a good seed, a good layout for us? Lots of elite battles, ideally getting an elite battle early so that we can get that first Detloff upgrade very early on. That is definitely important. So I like that. We do have a specific treasure or two that we'd like to have. One in particular, actually. Then, Places of Power. Places of Power. The blue Place of Power... Is it blue? Blue duplicates a card. So if we can duplicate a Slizzard, then that would be incredibly valuable for us. So, also eyeing those. And not seeing any early... Yellow is what the... Green is upgraded with higher base power. That'd probably be second best for us. The reddish orange is the remove a card, which for consistency purposes, we could get rid of a card that we don't really care about, but not sure that's going to make a huge difference. And I always forget what the yellow one is. Don't even remember what this one does. So if we go here, we can get Elite Battle 1, we can get Elite Battle 2, Elite Battle 3. And then the last elite battle's up there, so it maxes out at 3, which is good, but not perfect, of course. We'd like to have the chance of getting 4. And the other issue is if we are going that route, then is there a single blue place of power that we have access to? If we go here, 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 we go up there? We're gonna go that route? Right before the final boss? Ugh. So yeah, the places of power are definitely not ideal. They're, I would say, just outright bad. Elite battles are okay. Maybe it's worth still giving it a shot here. So I think we'll try it out.
You should have stayed on the road.
So I think... Okay, we got actually both Detloff and Slizzard, so this is the combo we're looking for here. But I think our objective is early on, especially before we upgrade Detloff, we're just trying to squeak on by, saving as much energy as possible, and then trying to power through the initial elite battle. Once we've done that, then our deck becomes substantially stronger. It's been so long since I've played Rogue Mage. Damage enemy unit by 1, so trying to remember what the various things that enemies do are. I mean, usually the first enemy is not that tough, right? So think you're just little bits and pieces of damage in a lot of different places. We did give them 1 armor on all their units, right? So stuff like Werecat, it's not very valuable. Oh, also Cyclops has damage too. So spawning in more cards is not really something that we are all that concerned about, but I mean, it does still give us a little more points. I mean, this is okay. It's pretty good. Outside of our Detloff plus Slizzard combo, what else are we looking for? Maybe we do want Hjalmar. I mean, I think we can make this work. It's pretty solid. Alright, this gives us more units. So we have the Crystal Decanter, which means the first special that we play is getting repeated. So again, that would ideally mean that we're going Slizzard, create a copy of the Slizzard with it, and we get 2 additional copies that way when we repeat our mirror image. But that's only particularly valuable when we have Detloff upgraded. I mean, technically, I guess you can make a case for duplicating Detloff in before he's been upgraded. That way you have 3 copies of him that can all be consumed 4 additional times. But I still think that our preference here is to try to avoid having to spend much energy, especially in the first few encounters. I'm actually starting with Germain because we have a limited number of times we can use Detloff. You're gonna go after, oh, not go after Germain, so you're not gonna activate his Bloodthirst. That's kind of silly. But, okay, so now I'm gonna go Slizzard here. So I use Germain because he technically gains value over time, and the longer we have him on the board, the more valuable he becomes. Could boost you up, but I'm gonna take a bit of a chance here. So next turn it's Detloff, consume Detloff with a Slizzard. Okay, it's all the stuff that gets boosted / healed up from dealing damage to us, but okay, that's good. It's a good addition. Maybe we could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could destroy the on-crate greatsword if we really wanted to. I was gonna start consuming Detloff now, but since there's a finite number of times we can do it, it's not as time sensitive as it would have otherwise been. Once he's been upgraded, I think we just get rid of you. And then we can consume you just to get you out of removal range more comfortably, and now there's no longer a damaged unit for you to get boosted from. Okay, you're gonna destroy all of our cows, so you know what, that was probably good timing in that case, because otherwise Hjalmar was about to get significantly weakened. Ethereal, I'm not sure we're gonna have much time to make you work, but technically there is a synergy there with Night Wraith. But I think now let's make sure we have enough time to consume Detloff a bit. Get you back out. Okay, more little bits and pieces of damage. That is actually going to make it hard for Ethereal to be valuable. Okay. So what if we go spawn you in, play you here. That way we're at least guaranteeing we get 1 additional Ethereal here. And just giving themselves armor, that's a little bit weird. Okay, so that's what we don't want to have them do. Oh, and they got the random damage on Ethereal as well, that stinks. Okay, we can still technically get a little bit of extra points out of this, but it is now much weaker because it's going to create 2 power copies of itself rather than 4 power copies of itself. So that's not great. Definitely not great. But, put you here. That means that, I mean, we technically could have had you consume or / destroy this Night Wraith, but maybe we'll just use Cyclops to do that, because then you're turning a 3 power card into a 2 power card, and that's not a trade that we are thrilled about doing, even if it does mean spawning in a few more rats. Still consume Detloff 1 more time after this. Ah, yeah, and they're just going after him. Oh, well, I mean, that is one way to use Detloff's last free summoning. Not really the way I had planned to do that, but sure. Okay, so now we have other ways to destroy stuff with Cyclops. You are completely useless at this point. So we could... You are another card we'd like to destroy. You technically are as well. Suppose, since you have Thrive, we play you, and then we go into Harpy Egg, destroy Harpy Egg, and I guess destroy Werecat on the last turn. You guys have armor, so we'd actually like to do it in this row, if possible. Put you here just so we theoretically could destroy you with Ethereal if we wanted to. I doubt we will, but remains an option. Now that consumption on Slizzard is not all that relevant anymore because Detloff can no longer get resummoned. create a little more space for us. I got rid of the ethereal that, as we'd said before, is pretty useless at this point. So now we could just consume you with Slizzard if we really wanted to. It is also technically an option. Is that preferable? I mean, it's not like we're gonna destroy you. You are really the only... I mean, you are kind of an engine, but... Or at least you are about to use an order ability, but it's not a particularly threatening one. So... I think we might just... do this. Now, we could destroy you with the Cyclops and potentially get rid of something. Okay, so now, is there anything good in removal range, though? I mean, collectively, if we were to destroy you and then still going to get up to, get boosted by 1 on their next turn, so we're going to need really 11 damage total. So if we go destroy you, hit you, and then next turn, we'd kind of like to hit you, but then, yeah, even though you'll only deal 4 damage when you get destroyed, it'll trigger your Death Witch, which gives us 1 more damage, so that should be just enough. Let's actually consume you to avoid taking the bleed damage. Okay, who are you hitting? Don't really want you to hit this werecat, but you probably will. Ooh. Narrowly avoided it. Okay, so now we do this and hit you. And that should take you out. And I think we're doing well enough here that we can go without spending any energy. And we still have not used anything in this match, so whatever we were to use here, we would get a second free copy of it. But although I mean, it's kind of tempting just because it's free stuff, but at the same time, if it's free stuff that we don't need, then we are still paying the initial cost of it. So, and yeah, I don't think that's going to be big enough. Okay, we're good. We're good. So, as I said, I think our deck starts out pretty weak, but once we get that first elite battle beyond us, then I think we get much stronger. Ooh. Okay. So you get boosted by 1 every turn. You potentially get boosted by 2 every turn. For you, it's automatic, at least until we use your damaging ability. For you, it's if we already have 25 points. So, better once it gets set up, but more reliable. Or this, deal 1 damage every turn, or flip it and do 1 boost every turn. See what our options to remove are. I think we don't have much of a long-term need for these guys, but short-term we probably do need to keep them. I think we probably go Witch Apprentice. If we're going all in on maximizing points, again, that's the idea of the run. We're being super aggressive. Not necessarily taking what would be the most reliable or quote-unquote best choice for just winning the run, but we're focusing entirely on maximizing point total. So now we're going for treasure chests. We do have a treasure that we really want. It's the Girdle of Giant Strength to double the power of one of our cards. That way we can get a Slizzard really highly boosted from consuming Detloff all the time. And then double its power. Unfortunately, we don't see it. Mysterious Puzzle Box. It's a passive in order to unleash whatever lurks inside. No idea what that means. In Gwent multiplayer, it gives you... It's actually a pretty complicated card that has the chance of giving you a thing from the box, which is a 13 power card. So I don't know if that's how it works here as well. Start of your turn, set the power of all allied units in your hand randomly from 1 to 13. No, thanks, we'll pass on that. Early Pit Fighter is fantastic because it starts out weak, but then the more battles you complete, the stronger it becomes at the start of every match, and it carries over. So, I mean, this is, in some ways, very similar to what we're trying to do within one given match after consuming Detloff over and over again and increasing his power, but Detloff has not yet been upgraded to do that just yet. So, I mean, I think this is definitely the best option for us. early pit fighter. It's definitely good. All right, so that means we have an event, a battle, and then we're going for this elite battle. You know, I think it doesn't matter how much energy we have at the time, we have to do it. That's another thing that, oh, well, this battle, then this event, then this battle, then elite battle. So yeah, I think we're gonna just aggressively go after all the stuff we need to go after and not worry too much about the current state of our deck or anything like that. Just because, again, we are throwing aside all sense of caution here. All right, so we start with the Pit Fighter. The thing is, in our first encounter, the Pit Fighter is just a terrible card. He's 5 power, and only once we've finished a few battles will he become much stronger. So I think we actually do want to get rid of him here, and he does automatically start with in our hand. So we get the Witch Apprentice, which is the card that we just added. What we really need here is probably our Slizzard. I mean, we could still destroy Detloff once with Cyclops, but we want a way to consistently destroy it. So I don't think Night Wraith is really helping us much here. So we are in need of more consumption. We have plenty of cards that want to be destroyed, but we need more stuff that does the consumption. I mean, that technically kind of sort of is one of them. Okay, this is the person that has what? The Desert Banshee, which is a consumption specter. They have the Beast, which gets boosted every turn if it's not the highest unit. What else do they have? Barghest, I think, for more consumption. Okay. This isn't the hard version, is it? No, it's the normal version. Okay. I think the threshold for the number of units they need to activate this is higher for the, or is lower rather, for the hard version. So who goes first? So we want to delay you until we get up to 25 points. So it's definitely not you. We maybe would look at Night Wraith, and then that immediately gets us some 1-power rats on the board that we can use Ethereal to transform those into stronger cards. I think we might do that, and we'll, again, because we have a finite number of times we can use Detloff, at least as of right now, he's not as time sensitive as he would normally be, so I think that means we can still start with you. They're gonna have Night Wraith as well. I remember that. And Haunt, the scenario that gives them Night Wraiths eventually. Okay, Hjalmar can potentially destroy some stuff, but he does not currently have... Oh, actually, no, I forget if he includes himself when determining how many units are on the board to establish how much damage he does. I think he does count himself, but this is not the high... I mean, it is going to become stronger once it consumes something, yes, but I still don't know that this is the best target for us to go after right now. I think we still waited a little bit longer. Ethereal, do we use it to destroy the Night Wraith and spawn in more rats, or do we just go straight into the rats? It's safer to go straight into the rats. It's more ambitious to go Night Wraith first. How much damage do they have? I think we're going to be fine for now. Famous last words. So we really don't want them to damage this guy now. And they won't. So yeah, this is boosting. That's a card we'd like to destroy instead. Oh, well, I mean, or you're going to consume it, which was a very silly thing for you to consume. Okay, don't love that we're drawing into the Pit Fighter, as we were saying. It's not very strong at this point. And we are still just on 12 power, and after we do this, it's going to be on, what, 15? So definitely not in Witch Apprentice range just yet. So I think, in that case, why don't we use Werecat? The deployability damage is not going to be that significant, but at least it gives us some time to build around the Thrive, I think. So that's at least some value here. Otherwise, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is not enough to destroy you. Not a very high prio. I mean, you will technically get boosted by 1 every time you play a Death Wish card, I suppose, so it is kind of still an engine, but that tends not to be that big of a factor. So I think we still go Werecat. Let me hit you once with it. Do this while we still can. Alright, that potentially can deal damage. It's either damage or it continues to... Yeah, so that's... Okay, Ethereal is now basically shut down. But now we get Slizzard. Okay, so now things get interesting. Because this plus Detloff is definitely something we want to do. And ideally do as quickly as possible. So... Yeah. I think it's Slizzard, and that's going to be Detloff after that. And at that point, we can probably get Witch Apprentice down after that. And then we'll finish with our damage, and Pit Fighter is kind of just a throwaway, unfortunately. So... Alright. Don't have a ton of board space here, but I think we'll still go Slizzard Melee Rogue, because we do want to have a lot of cards on the board to set up Hjalmar. This doesn't do anything anymore. That's the Thrive ticking. That's why we deliberately made a point of playing Werecat on the earlier side. So this needs to stay alive. That's important. But you already used your damage here, and that does not have damage. Okay, we get more damage on our side, but now let's think, well, technically speaking, Witch Apprentice would be in range here to get boosted up. We have enough turns still to destroy Detloff enough. I mean, between Slizzard and Cyclops, we could always use Cyclops on Detloff to destroy him more quickly, or more times more quickly. So I suppose, in that case, it is technically preferable to rush Witch Apprentice here.
Then take flight, eh?
And it's a flying pig, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, now you're getting boosted by 2 every turn, so that is a very nice engine for us. Okay. Let's see how many Spectres they're getting out here. Fortunately, they're playing Spectres, yes, but the cards they are consuming are all the ones that could have gained value over time. Basically, they're consuming all the wrong cards. So it's been kind of nice for us in that way. And it also just means by consuming Spectres, they're reducing their total number of Spectres. So it hasn't been a huge concern. And we will be able to break out some damage eventually once we use Hjalmar and Cyclops. But I think this is where we now go the Detloff route and start consuming you. So now you're worth more points every turn, and you're still getting boosted every turn as well. Again, they're consuming, and that time it's technically also an engine. Alright, that's the last chapter of their scenario haunts, so we did get several Spectres down here. Let's just double check the count here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The threshold is 6. Yeah, okay. So we should probably start looking at damaging them a bit. And that means... I mean, the problem of destroying a Night Wraith is that it spawns in more rats for them, which is kind of unfortunate. We could destroy you with Cyclops and take you out, or you're technically not a Spectre. How many units do we have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hjalmar makes 11. You have 1 armor. The 1 armor is significant. It means we can't destroy the Desert Banshee. Darn. I mean, we could use energy here and double down on Mirror Image, because it's the first special that we play on this turn. Or in this match, rather. Get 2 more of whatever you'd like, really. Actually, Witch Apprentice might be best. And then that definitely means Hjalmar has enough damage to destroy you, but that still feels like overkill. I think we might just settle for taking out one of the Night Wraiths and dealing with them spawning in rats. Oh, but the point total is pretty close here. Can we still afford to do that? Maybe we can't. That's not good. I mean... We'll do it for this one. Next turn, we will probably look to break out Hjalmar, though. So we do this to destroy you. You will still come back. It's going to spawn in the rats. It's really just to deny them additional Spectres. And now we'll consume Detloff here. I mean, technically, we could... Yeah, I think we still do. And then this last respawn we might use to get this Cyclops going. Otherwise, it'll, of course, just be Slizzard. Okay, that's actually a card that we would like to destroy, because the Death Wish is beneficial for us. So that looks nice. Oh, we also have a Werecat as a card that we are okay with destroying as well, because that will deal damage to everything in this row by 1. Huh. Problem is that's not big enough to destroy the card that we would like to destroy. I mean, we could use a cleanse, which is at least much cheaper than throwing down a mirror image, and then if we do that on Werecat, that means Werecat does have enough damage to destroy Noon Wraith. Might actually be the right play. I think it probably is. And we're gonna get 2 cleanses in that case, and I think that means one of them goes on the Werecat. The second one goes on Ethereal, because then we can use Ethereal to once again start upgrading these rats. Obviously, we're not gonna switch around the Witch Apprentice, but so now we go and do that. Granted, now Ethereal is clogged. So, good thing we did that initially, because now it's no longer an option. But it should mean, and now, so Detloff has used all of his charges. That was an aggressive move, but now we've taken a pretty big lead here, and Kalmar should give us a pretty huge burst of damage at this point. Because with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 units, 14 with Hjalmar. Not enough to destroy you, but it is enough to destroy you. You are technically an engine, you're big, and you are a Spectre. So I think those are all good enough reasons to target you here. So this doesn't work anymore. When our row is full, it shuts down this Ethereal. It destroys one of these cards, but it doesn't spawn in another Ethereal, and the order ability goes away. So it's actually a -1 point play. And we no longer have much reason to consume the Slizzard, because can't get Detloff back anymore. Okay, so they have 1 card left. How many Spectres do they have on the board? It's just 1, 2. Okay, so we should be fine. Should be fine. So we'll just throw down our throwaway Pit Fighter. And given our advantage here, we should be doing fine. One would assume. I mean, that's gonna hurt them a bit, but us more. Well, we'll still hold on for the win. Okay, so by defeating the Lantern Bearer, Pit Fighter becomes slightly stronger. Probably still not yet a card that we are all that thrilled about using, but it is at least 8 points now, I think, at this point. Oh. Alright, so this is interesting. For adding cards, we have Dodric. Every turn, he has us draw a card and put a card back into our deck. Basically means we can swap out a card every turn. And we don't have control over what card we draw, but it is a way of just sifting through, and if we don't get a card that we like, or if our hand is bad, and, for example, we don't have the Slizzard or we don't have Detloff, it's a way of not guaranteeing, but at least having a higher chance of seeing those cards at some point. So it's good for consistency in that way. Dandelion is pretty similar in that way. We play him, and then we draw a card and play another card, so basically it just gives you 1 more card than you would normally have on top of the, or well, it's the 5 points from his body, and then, you know, you play whatever card you would otherwise play on that turn and draw something to replace it. So they're similar in that way. They both give you access to 1 more card, or potentially just allow you to see a few more cards for consistency's sake. They would normally be much better than the Intrigger Warrior. However, the Intrigger Warrior does have consumption, which means, technically speaking, when combined with an upgraded Detloff, it's just 1 more way to destroy Detloff and get him back on the board and increase his power. So, consistency, high-end points. Technically, we're going for high-end points in this deck. So, by that logic, Intrigger Warrior would be the right choice. We did take a spell, Visions, to guarantee that we can get the cards that we need. So, I suppose that means that for that reason, I mean, that's why we took that, right? So that means that these guys are not nearly as valuable. So they basically serve the same purpose as that spell does. I mean, that means that we wouldn't have to use that 8 energy spell, which is a lot, but just check what see here. But again, like eventually getting rid of Night Wraith or Werecat or maybe even Cyclops might be worth doing, but we kind of need them at this stage, at least until we make those upgrades. And now, as I said, Pit Fighter I believe is an 8. So it's still probably one of our weaker cards, but it's not absolute trash anymore. And it will continue to get stronger over time, and that's why, you know, short term not great, but over the long haul could be a decent addition. All right, so now take your pick at which event we'd like to do. Plan is event, battle, elite, and then make our way south. We will not have any chance to restore, or well, maybe restore energy here. And then go into elite, followed by event, another elite. Then go north for this place of power and that boss at the end. But again, the boss is not really the objective. As we saw, we don't even get a mutagen if we finish this run. Ooh. We arrive in town on the busiest day of the week. Market stalls and line the streets. And vendors show various offers and haggle with customers. You can buy 1 out of 10 cards to add to our deck. Do we have any good additions here? We see some of the cards that we just turned down. 2 of them, in fact, both Dandelion Poet and Doedric. Which, again, they're good cards. They just, you know, they're a little bit redundant with visions. We don't have to use this. We're saving some energy, so it's not the end of the world to pick one of these up. But, ooh, technically speaking, if we're going for the greed, Vran Warrior gets boosted whenever we destroy a unit. And we are consuming, or at least eventually going to consume Detloff as much as possible. So this does have a lot of long-term potential. Witch Apprentice, we do have a copy of this already. That does get stronger over time once we get to that 25-point threshold. Here's more consumption with Barghest. So that is also a way to increase the number of times we can consume Detloff. Destroy all 1 power units and then boost self by 2 for each unit destroyed. This would in multiplayer Gwent, this would normally be the way that you would benefit from flooding your side of the board with a bunch of 1 power cards, or at least one of the best ways to do it. This gives us a lot of ways to flood our row. This is damage if you consume it. This is also consistency. Technically speaking, in multiplayer Gwent, Sienna here would tend to be the strongest. Do we have any duplicate or any deploy abilities that would benefit from being duplicated? I mean, Hjalmar is probably our best deploy ability, but that's, or Germain, completely fill a row. But they're just not cards that are central to our strategy with this deck. Spawn in more stuff with Night Wraith. I guess you can consume adjacent units twice with Endrega Warrior, but that is pretty crazy to take Sienna just for that purpose alone, when we could instead just get a card that does that by itself, more or less. So I don't think she's the answer. I think it's probably Vran Warrior. All right. I think that's a good addition. I think that is a good addition. At least long-term can be a good addition. Because, yeah, I'm a little concerned about, especially since if we win this but don't reach 1,000 points, it's kind of like, all right, well, what did we accomplish here? Not much of anything, right? So I think we do need to get pretty aggressive. Nekker Big Boss. We've seen this guy a lot as of late. He spawns in a bunch of Nekkers, and then if they get destroyed, they come back, right? Whenever an on unit is destroyed, spawn a Nekker in the same row, boosted by 2. Yeah. So it's dealing damage to him is tough, because if you remove a card, then he's going to replace it with something that is potentially, I mean, not incredibly valuable, but somewhat valuable. So, I mean, we aren't necessarily looking to deal a bunch of damage anyway, but here's Detloff. That's good. You are also both Death Wish units with 1 way to destroy. We are in need of a Slizzard. Oh, okay. Okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. All right, so once again, the question of, because Detloff, technically speaking, only has the limited use cases, he's not as time sensitive anymore. So do we need to play it, or it used to be Slizzard and then Detloff? go Night Wraith plus Lizard early, but I think Germain, the earlier we get him, the more stuff he spawns in. So technically, starting with him is probably still best. I don't remember how much damage, if any, this guy tends to have. I think he's mostly boosting, yeah, with a bunch of Thrive. Okay. So now I think it is Slizzard will go range row, and we'll do all of our consumption in that range row. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna spawn in a ton of units, especially once we consume these Night Wraiths, so getting a Hjalmar, I would not be opposed to that. Yeah. Lots of cards that start weak, but gain value over time. If they didn't have the armor, we could destroy two of them right here, but then they both get replaced by stronger copies of themselves. So not really sure that that benefits us all that much. So I think we actually start with Night Wraith and consume that initially, rather than Detloff, because this is, again, just not as time sensitive as it would otherwise be. I mean, this is not time sensitive either, but might as well sneak it in here while we have the opportunity. I guess Werecat early, just to have more time benefit from the Thrive, I suppose. But with their 1 point of armor, ooh. Okay, now this is suddenly top priority. Maximize the amount of time we have to benefit from this. I'm a little concerned about this encounter. I know it doesn't look bad yet, but the whole point of Thrive, the archetype that they are basically building their entire deck around, is that it starts small, but then increases substantially every turn, because all these cards can get boosted. In this case, this card can get boosted by 2 every turn. So if it may not look like much at the moment, but I am concerned about their long-term potential and our lack of good ways to stop it. So what I'm considering is going Witch Apprentice, and then maybe even mirror imaging it and getting 2 additional copies of it, that means. And then sure, the copies we create will start off at 1 power, but they'll immediately get boosted by 2 every turn, because of we will be at that point at the 25-point threshold. So then we have 3 cards that are all getting boosted by 2 every turn, and that would be, I think, enough to make us much, much more comfortable. Is that necessary? Maybe not. I know it doesn't look like it is right now, but that is definitely the safest play. Maybe we still start with Detloff now, and we'll... If it looks like we continue to be concerned, next turn, then we might... Oh, well, yeah, we wanted to play this first anyway. Yeah, this is more time sensitive. Yeah, we at least get you down. We at least get you down. The other concern I have is just having the board space to, if we do want to triple down on these Witch Apprentices, having the room to spawn all them. I mean, we could put you in this row and have Slizzard just consume some 1-point rats to make room if necessary. I guess we do that.
Quick, move those hooves.
Because Germain's going to keep on spawning stuff here, so this is going to get crowded, and we don't have the Slizzard to consume things here. I mean, yes, we have Cyclops can make some room as well, but you're like, yes, we'll still do this now. We can clear out, I mean, Cyclops doesn't really create space because it removes a card and replaces it with itself. But we were talking about maybe, you know, using Night Wraith as well, and that's going to spawn even more stuff. So having Lusty Warp, which was that card that destroys all 1-power units and then boosts self by 2 for every unit destroyed, that would actually be really nice right about now to clear out some space and benefit from doing so, especially because we don't have Hjalmar, so we don't really need to have all these units. We don't have much benefits from doing that. I think we now are probably looking at Werecat, and we trigger the Thrive a couple of times, possibly. Are we drawing any more? No, we're not drawing any more. Okay, so we're not getting Hjalmar unless we were to use Visions, but I think that's spending that would be spending a lot. I mean, that or Mirror Image would be spending the same amount, but I think Mirror Image is worth more. So if we're concerned about points, then that is, I think, the best way to go about doing things. We also want to consume you. Yes, we still do this. Just so we have time to benefit from the Thrive. The deploy damage doesn't really matter because they have all that armor. I am getting increasingly concerned about our lack of board space. Or honestly, if you want to destroy something here, go for it. They're probably going to go after Deadlock here. No? Witch Apprentice? Okay, I kind of wanted you to get rid of something altogether. But... So now you only have one respawn remaining. I mean, we could consume you and destroy you enough times that you stop coming back, but... You know, we still have basically absorbed all those points on this lizard, and then if we do this and then proceed to Cyclops you, then it's not a terrible idea. Problem is you don't like hitting Thrive all that much. We don't want to destroy their Thrive cards because that means they spawn in another Thrive card to replace it. But we don't want to weaken their Thrive cards without destroying them because then it makes it easier for them to trigger Thrive. So it's kind of this catch-22, which is why this enemy is a weird one to go up against strategically. Yeah. I think eventually we're probably going to go Cyclops to destroy you, but we'd like to trigger your Thrive at least once first. I suppose that means we'll play you. Consume Detloff still. We might use Cyclops to destroy this Harpy Egg. Well, I mean, we can probably still Ghost Lizard to do it on our next turn. Because you're not really going to create space when we consume... Oh, what are you going to hit? They really want this Witch Apprentice dead. Like, really want this Witch Apprentice dead. Okay, I'm deliberately not going to use Germain here. Because then we just don't have any room remaining in this the melee row, and we need at least one spot if we want to go Cyclops to destroy Werecat and trigger the Death Wish. So... I mean, do we have enough concern to think we need to pull out a cleanse on this Witch Apprentice? I don't know. I think what we'll do here is we'll consume you, and in doing so spawn in a 6-point Harpy. Now I'm just eyeing damage opportunities with Cyclops. The best card for us to damage, technically speaking, is this Cyclops, because it is the only unit that does not have Thrive. So if we can damage it without destroying it, like dealing exactly 5 damage would be perfect. So I think we might actually just destroy Detloff here. And I know he's not coming back anymore, but as we were saying, you know, maybe that's not a terrible thing, because we were running out of space anyway. We triggered this Thrive, so that's good. I'm, again, deliberately not going to use that Germain ability, so we still have some room. Chimera's going to consume something on there, and that's another card that we'd be okay about damaging. So... I think it might have to be Cyclops onto Werecat to hit Chimera now, and that way we have a little more space for Night Wraith, or we just start consuming other things in this row with Slizzard to potentially make room for Night Wraith. On our last turn, I mean, then we aren't really going to be able to consume Night Wraith. We're not going to have the room to benefit from those rats. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's... Here's what we'll do. We hit you, trigger the Death Wish. We'll hit all these guys for 1 damage. We've already removed their armor, so it's actually doing something. Then, I mean, granted, they're probably just going to get boosted from Thrive and cancel all that out, which is why, again, I don't love damaging Thrive, generally speaking. You're not Thrive, which is why we're going to hit you. Then, we consume just a low-value rat. And that's primarily just to create space for this Night Wraith, which we'll play on our next turn, and that means we do not have anything else we want to play in this melee row, so we can use that. We're going to have enough space for anything beyond the rats that you spawned in initially, so that's just a big point slam to trigger all the Thrives. And that's probably what they're trying to do with their last card as well. So that's what I mean, where they start small, but when they get boosted up, when they all get boosted up the end, that starts to add up quickly. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points worth of boosts. Just from boosts on their existing cards, let alone whatever value this card itself has. So our lead here is not nearly as big as it might seem. So what we do is we play you, or no, we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means there's room for 2 more cards in this row. So if we consume something before we play Night Wraith, it has room to spawn in both rats. Or we play Night Wraith, it spawns in 1 rat. We consume Night Wraith, it spawns in another rat. Either way, it's Night Wraith plus 2 rats in this row. So it doesn't really matter. That's what I mean, just not quite enough board space to benefit from destroying this as well. So we'll get you boosted by 2 at the end of our turn. That'll get us up to 77, which means we have a 21-point lead. How much did we say they were going to get boosted from triggering the Thrive? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 plus whatever this is. I mean, it's not going to be an old spear tip. Just Yigern would be the... No, but Yigern last turn would destroy itself because it wouldn't have any armor. There, theoretically, anything they could play that would give them enough points. It's really close, but I don't think so. It's really close. Okay, they will damage themselves. Oh, are they going to spawn something else in the process, though?
How many rocks champion get?
Ooh, okay, we're fine. We're fine, like I said, really close. Really close, but we're fine. We crunched the numbers, we knew the math. We knew the math. Okay, well, the game really wants us to have more Witch Apprentices. Istrid, we've seen as well, again, consistency, drawing cards, putting cards back into our deck, much like Dodric does. Another card that we've seen a few times over. Or we could remove... I think we need to keep all these. I think we're adding another Witch Apprentice. I think we're probably adding another Witch Apprentice here. I mean, we didn't get... What was it that we didn't get last time? No, we did get both Slizzard and Detloff. I suppose we kind of wanted Hjalmar and we didn't see him, so that's the kind of thing where having a card like Istrid could potentially help you make that happen. That's the consistency that we were lacking before, but I think we still got Witch Apprentice here. Alright, so now this is the Elite Battle. So this is where things get serious. Where we'll probably look to spend a lot of our energy because this first one in particular is crucially important. Because although we've been trying to do the Detloff plus Slizzard combo, we have been limited in how effective this can be because Detloff is limited to 4 respawns, but once he's upgraded, that limit goes away and he increases in base power every time we do it, so it becomes more valuable with each subsequent consumption. So this is the big encounter. Oh no. This is the earliest we've ever seen failed experiment. I initially was under the impression that elite battles were such that specific ones showed up in specific places. The earliest possible area where you can encounter failed experiments, or rather the earliest encounter that we're having right now for elites, right here, this sort of 1/3 of the way through marker, I thought was always Mountain King and Maxi, which for the most part seem to be the 2 weakest of the elites. The middle seemed to always be failed experiments, and sometimes Mountain King, sometimes the Inquisitor dude, and then we just tended not to do elite battles in the latter half. But no, it seems as though it's perhaps not that rigid, not that set in stone. But this is gonna be, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be really tough. Pit Fighter is now at 11, so that is, at this point, probably still worth keeping in hand. That's not bad. Ethereal, when combined with Night Wraith, has some fuel. Witch Apprentice is not bad. Cyclops is technically... I mean, I suppose Ethereal is a way to destroy stuff. But we want Slizzard, we want to have also Detloff, and if we keep all these guys, then it's not going to happen.
I won't rest as long as you draw breath.
Okay, well. So, none of our big cards here is concerning. I mean, we can still go Night Wraith plus Ethereal or Germain to get cows on the board to set up Ethereal as well. Maybe that's what we're looking at here. It probably is. And of course, this guy is the RNG meme lord. He alternates his ability. This time he's going to start off with the damage one. Spawn a random unit on a random allied row. Okay, no, it's the spawn one they're going to get this time. So that's generally the safest. We can cancel his leader ability twice. It's going to change every turn. I think this is probably the safest one. And another Witch Apprentice. So we'd like to get up to that threshold as quickly as possible, the 25-point threshold, to set these guys up. So these are looking like our best cards in this match right now. Unless we can get... So here's the thing. We could build around Ethereal and try to have him be our win condition. We could. The best way to do that would be using Cleanse, and it'd be our first special card in this match, so we'd get it twice. Use both of them on Ethereal. He's boosted by 6 up to 10. Then every time we create a copy of him, he's creating a 10 power copy of himself. That's a big deal. Thing is, by doing that, we're blowing through our double special when we could perhaps instead use that on Visions, and that would give us a way to guarantee that we get both Detloff and the Slizzard. So it's basically a question of, do you go all in on Ethereal and make it stronger? Or do you say, okay, we might not have already set up all the stuff we'd like to have for Detloff plus the Slizzard, but if we use our energy here, we can at least guarantee that we get it? Tell you what, I'm not even sure that would be the best play. So I think Vran Warrior is actually extremely valuable here. If you're destroying something every turn and potentially get Slizzard as well, and Slizzard is destroying something every turn too, then that's gonna make Vran Warrior get pretty big, I think. Is that the best course of action? Because it might be. I think we might go that route. This is tempting to just build around Ethereal, because there's a lot of 1-power cards, and they have not shut him down yet, but I think we do this. Do it to first get Slizzard. There's a chance we happen to draw into Detloff. It's possible. And by playing these guys directly from our deck, we are thinning it out, increasing the likelihood that we get the cards that we want. We'll put Slizzard here just so we leave more room for Ethereal to do its thing. But you start off as a 4, but you get boosted by 1 every time something gets destroyed. So if we do this, you get boosted by 1. So that's going to happen every turn, hopefully, assuming Ethereal remains uninterrupted. And then Slizzard is going to probably consume this Night Wraith on our next turn, and that's also going to be another way to power you up every turn. Granted, we are going to be at the 25-point threshold, so we might want to get Witch Apprentice instead. We'll see. Okay, that's all boosting, and they're spawning something this turn, right? So they're not really damaging stuff. That is another way to destroy stuff. It's not urgent right now, but okay, the question is it more efficient to go Witch Apprentice first? Or what were we saying? Have something we can boost up with the Night Wraith? Or by boost you up by consuming Night Wraith? This is 1 extra point this turn, whereas this is 2 extra points this turn. I think it has to be, Witch Apprentices. Let's start with the weaker one. start the weaker one, so that this is getting boosted earlier, because this one I think is going to be a little bit harder for us to keep out of removal range. So it means we will not consume anything with this lizard on this turn. That's why we were considering going Night Wraith, because we're leaving you dormant for the time being. I also paid 0 to... we wanted to neutralize this. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. I mean, for what it's worth, they shut down Ethereal, which does stink. But it's a good thing that we have Slizzard to still give us some consumption. And, yeah, I wanted to neutralize that one. I did not pay attention to what leader they had at the time. This is the boost by a random number? Yeah. Okay, and Hjalmar, with a bunch of stuff on the board, would also benefit as well, I think. Now we are... oh, well, no, we should go Witch Apprentice here. Then it's going to be Night Wraith. So it means, once again, Slizzard is it's not really doing much here. I suppose we'll put you in this... that row now. So these are both getting boosted by 2 every turn. That is pretty valuable to us. That's not good, though. That's why we played you first, to make sure you had time to get boosted. Okay, we are going to neutralize you. This is the damaging version. We're going to neutralize you. So now, this is where we start doing more consumption. Yeah, we can still do you first. Consume, get you boosted. You guys are certainly still getting boosted every turn as well. We have a lot of units on the board now, so this is not a bad time to Hjalmar if they play something valuable. They're loading up on damage here. They had enough to destroy that Witch Apprentice. Darn. Okay. So, still have this one running, which is good, but it's not... they have another damage leader ability here. I think we are probably still neutralizing this as well, to be honest. And you do have Thrive, so you are technically an engine. So, is there something that we like to destroy here? Oh no, Hjalmar can just deal damage directly without needing to destroy anything with the Cyclops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage. I mean, it is technically overkill, but I think we'll still take it. Let's not spawn a bunch of rats on their row. Yeah. I think it's still Hjalmar. Hjalmar to destroy you. Did destroy cards, so you get boosted. We no longer have much of a need to have a lot of cards on the board after playing Hjalmar, so it means we can probably just consume these rats. I mean, technically, having more units on the board means it's a higher probability that this guy that we are going to neutralize would hit a 1-power rat or a 1-power cow with its damage, which would be nice for them to just load up on a bunch of overkill damage, but... Okay. They really want to have the damage version, don't they? Alright, well, the plus side of that is the more we delay this, the more Witch Apprentice and Brand Warrior has time to get boosted, so hopefully get out of removal range, because that's, you know, we delayed how long it took them to get rid of this Witch Apprentice, but they obviously did eventually get rid of it. Technically, Werecat is preferable, so we have time to benefit from its Thrive, and it is the only card left that we have reason to destroy. All the Death Wishes are gone. This guy's gonna hit us for 4, but if we were to use Cyclops on somebody bigger, we could shut him down, but I'm not really sure it's worth it. So again, we do have a fair number of these 1-power cards, so maybe that's something we still feel okay about. The chance that one of them gets hit and it's, you know, a whole bunch of overkill damage could actually be worth negative points in that case. Because they hit themselves for 4, they have 2 armor, so they're going to functionally damage themselves by 2. And if the card they try to damage by 4 has only 1 power, then it still means that we are, we're still getting 1 more point than they are from that, or they're losing a point from it. So do we consume something with Slizzard here? I mean, technically it means it's a lower probability of this hitting a 1-power card, but you know, we'll do it just to increase your power by 1 as well. And you do still hit a 1-power unit, so that worked well for us.
With pleasure.
Okay, that was the damage version that we... Oh. Damage from you and... Really seemed like they got 1 extra source of damage there for a second. I mean, I thought they already did the Pyrotechnician damage. Then they did that leader ability damage. Then for some reason this gave them damage as well. I'm not sure why that happened. But now... Nothing is an engine. There's no super high priority stuff for us to destroy. I think we're just looking to go after stuff that doesn't have armor, so we're not losing any value there. So let's... It's probably going to be this Plague Maiden then. Okay, they're boosting up this Plague Maiden now. Probably remains the card we're going after. They did their boost on that one. They got a pretty big one, I think, on the Caravan Vanguard, and then you got the boost from the card that they played directly. I think we could do... I mean, Cyclops again is damage. There's no very obvious card for us to go after because it's not like they have an engine. We actually don't want to destroy you, otherwise you'll spawn in the rats, so we would rather not get too overboard, but we could... This is the damage one, so I think, again, we might deliberately keep some of these one-power guys on the board and maybe destroy you to hit you. Trigger the Thrive. Oh, we technically wanted to destroy this. Oops. Do we feel like we need more stuff here? Because having just one turn to use a spell at the very end if we feel like we are falling behind is not a good situation to be in. This is the most important encounter in this entire run, because once we finish this, if we do it successfully, we are much stronger. So I think we do probably. Well, what would we... we don't have great stuff for... Don't have great stuff for quick burst of points. Unless we have stuff from our deck that we want to play. I mean, technically speaking, we can get Detloff from our deck with another Visions. One power copy of Witch Apprentice. If we had done... that was something we were considering doing earlier, right? I think, or maybe that was the previous encounter. Where doing that means more time for them to get boosted by 2, but that's only 2 turns for that to happen, so it's worth what? Starts at 1, gets boosted. It ultimately will be a 5-point play, whereas, you know, getting Detloff out here is worth a lot more than that. So I think we might do it for Detloff. So this is what? An additional 15 points, I think, which is more than anything else. So he's 5 initially. He's 10 once we consume him the first time, and it'll be 15 once we consume him on our next turn. And if they try to hit him with damage, then, you know, he's very capable of tanking that damage. Okay, we're looking okay at the moment, dare I say. This is the spawn a random unit one, which I don't think it's too threatening. We won't be able to benefit from all of the Detloff respawns, but I think this will still work here. For your Thrive as well.
Let's take a gander at your insides then.
Alright, what is it? Hoakim. Did not expect that, but it will be a point slam from their deck in that case. But we're fine. We're fine. Alright, so that was the crucial roadblock. Because with Failed Experiment defeated, we can either get Hedge Knight, which is not very helpful for us, just a passive 6.6 armor unit on the board. No, we need to upgrade Detloff here. If it was Girdle Giant Strength, then it would have been a tough decision, but I think we have to do this. So now our deck is way stronger because we can begin to infinitely consume Detloff. There's now theoretically no upward limit to how many points Detloff can be worth, as long as we just load up on as much consumption as we can possibly get. And that was one of the things that we had the option of... Yeah, we did a little bit more of that when we picked up the Endrego Warrior. We had other options that were also, like Barghest we could have picked up before that could have given us a little bit more still, but Fran Warrior is synergistic with that as well. He's not doing the consumption, but as we saw in the previous match, gets boosted when we do it, and then these Witch Apprentices just chill. Okay, so I think we are going the southern route because at this point we're basically just heading down to these elite battles and hunting them down and trying to upgrade Detloff even further, because at this point, not only do we have an infinite number of times we can respawn Detloff, he will also get boosted by 1, or base power increased by 1 every time we do it, but with the next upgrade, that goes up to 3, and that may not seem like a big upgrade, it might just look like 2 points, but no, it's 2 more points every time he gets consumed, which if our entire deck is built around consuming him as many times as possible, then that's going to be worth a whole lot. So I think we need to go south. This might just be us restoring energy. Transform a card is what this one is. Is that just random? I think that's just random. I think we just go for the energy here. Again, we really wanted either a blue Place of Power, which is duplicate a card, then we would have used that on a Slizzard, or the green one is upgrade / increase the base power of a card, which I don't remember if you can do that on your key cards. You probably can't. So again, probably would have been on Slizzard just to make it a little bit safer to play. So really the blue. Blue is what we really wanted, and there might be a chance to pick one up at the very end of the run, but that's just about it. But we did deliberately take the mirror image so that we can create additional copies of the Slizzard, and that was, the idea was once Detloff has been upgraded at least once, that significantly increases the number of times we can consume him. So this wasn't really a factor, or could have been a factor with Witch Apprentice before, but now is likely to be a much more important card for us going forward. All right, so further south we go. Assassin's another damaging guy. Oh, and yeah, after the elite battle, Pit Fighter is now much stronger at 17. He is definitely worth it. That was another thing, was early on, we had basically a dead card that was always starting in our hand, but now this is an asset, not a liability. So, but once again, we're looking for our big consumption combo here. So we have one way to consume, or destroy, really. Not consume, but with some Death Wish, but okay, that's the key consumption card. Now we really want Detloff. That's not bad, but ethereal. This is an awkward order in which we're probably going to have to play cards here. The end of your turn, destroy a random enemy unit with 3 or less power. Werecat is in trouble. Unless we consume it the same turn we play it, which would mean we'd want to already have Slizzard on the board. So yeah, I think this guy is going to weaken us with a bunch of little pokes of damage and then try to finish us off with the leader ability. Oh, and this is the hard version. Okay. All right. Yeah, that threshold might be something like 4 or 5 on the, or no, rather a 2 on the normal version. Yeah, the number would have to be lower for it to be easier. But yeah. I think we might need to, whatever we play turn 1, might need to go cleanse. Unless it's Pit Fighter. That's really the only thing that could take a hit and still not be in assassin range. But you're not really a card we want to be playing first. You're kind of just a play you on the last turn because you don't require any setup type of thing. So I think it is Slizzard. It is probably going to be a cleanse. And then the unfortunate thing is that means we're going to have to double cleanse on him, which is not really what we typically want to be doing, because that is not great value. Oh, wait, you start with... Okay, now it's coming back to me more specifically what cards we got. You do this to give yourself a bunch of armor, and then they definitely have on-crate longship. What else do they have, though? Remember that. Remember that specifically. I don't remember what else, though. Alright, so, I mean, Germain does gain value over time, is a little bit outside of removal range. If they have a little bit of damage, they could fairly easily poke him and take him out, though. But even if they do that, it gets us some cows that we can use to set up Ethereal. So I think that is still the play. I think we still probably want to put you in a row separate from the Slizzard.
We'll defend our homes, no matter what.
But we definitely want to see Detloff. So now he is much stronger and we have the Slizzard. Hey, what did I say? It's the Longship. That just feels so weird because I've definitely said this before, but in multiplayer Gwent, that is row locked to the melee row. So for them to just casually toss it in the range row like that, where it would normally do absolutely nothing in multiplayer Gwent, does just feel fundamentally wrong. Okay, so they're gonna, for what it's worth, they're gonna pick off a cow every turn. But if we're quick with the ethereal, we can at least get some value out of it. So I think that's still not terrible, and it kind of distracts them from potentially higher priority targets. That's actually, ooh. Ethereal's gonna get dropped to a 3, and then they can destroy that. We might just need to accept that. It makes Ethereal weaker, and they will probably destroy one of our Ethereals. Yeah. Unless for some reason they get distracted by a cow. Well, we could Witch Apprentice. No. After taking the 1 point of damage, we'll be on 24, not 25, so you will not get boosted. Alright, we'll wait a turn. Alright, so this would be another case where, technically speaking, using Cleanse on Ethereal is not a terrible idea. You get stronger Ethereals whenever you spawn in a copy. He's out of assassin range. But we have a couple of elite battles coming up pretty soon after this, and it's 2 elite battles, one right after the other, more or less. I think there's like an event in between, but not much, so I think we kind of need to try to be stingy here when it comes to our energy use. I'm almost certain this ethereal is getting destroyed here.
Cards are blowing, fair wins the day.
Lead on you, you destroy. I mean, if you want to get distracted by the 1 point cows, that works for me. That works for me. Okay, we're drawing one more card and only one more card, which is unfortunate because we still have not seen Detloff. And at this point, the earlier we get him, the better, because now we do want to be consuming Detloff every single turn. But Witch Apprentice is still not bad, and we got the other one as well, and we are definitely going to be at 25 points once we use you. So let's do that. Amazing line. Fly, Pegasus. Amazing. Okay. Yeah, so Deadlock, or rather, Slizzard has really not had much of anything to do yet until unless we play you, and or you, I mean, technically, we would like to get you down kind of early to trigger the Thrives, but that's at most 1 point per turn, whereas these are 2 points per turn, so still better to prioritize these guys. Gonna give us lots of bleed, but the question is more, are they gonna mess with you now? Now they do. Okay. So, no Detloff, not unless we were to use a Visions here to get him. If we do that, we'd want to do it as early as possible to maximize the amount of times we can consume him with Slizzard, but I just don't think that's gonna be that big of a factor. Or, I mean, it could be, but is it necessary is really the question. When we have other cards we'd like to be playing early as well, like Witch Apprentice. I mean, this is in addition to whatever card we play from our hand. So, we're definitely going to do this. That's not the question, though. They're surprisingly clean creatures, as it happens. Still not anything to consume unless we get Detloff. I think you just wait. I think you just wait, and once we get Harpy Egg and Werecat out here, you'll have at least something to do. So now it's basically all up to these two. Ooh, okay, I was really concerned about that going melee row and giving them enough damage to destroy Witch Apprentice with this as a follow-up, but they did not opt to do that, thankfully. So I think we just continue to spawn in 1 point cows and hope that that continues to distract them a bit. And then probably Harpy Egg, unless we like assume that Germain is gonna get poked for 1 damage and then destroyed by the assassin. We say at this point we might as well just destroy you and get some damage out of you rather than destroy you and get nothing out of it when they use their leader ability to dump you. It's probably not necessary to make that call just... it might happen. It might happen. I think we still do this, though. So that would have been immediately in removal range had we not immediately been able to consume it with Slizzard. So that's a nice little bonus of having Slizzard out here. Concerned about these guys, though. Please go after the cow. That stinks. Yeah. As I said, the Witch Apprentices were really our keys to success here. Yes, we have a big 17-point finisher with Pit Fighter, but that's maybe still not big enough by itself to just assume that that'll carry us to victory. Do we need to break out Detloff? I mean, again, the earlier we do it, the better. So at this point, definitely not as effective, but if we do that, it's definitely much safer. We'll do it. I don't want to do it, but the fact that they destroyed that other Witch Apprentice was, I think, reason enough to think we need to go this route. So now, we can consume him an unlimited number of times, and every time we do so, he gets powered up by 1. So we actually kind of like if they, for whatever reason, decide that this is the card they want to damage. Well, damage doesn't really make a difference one way or the other. If he gets destroyed, it actually benefits us. That's what we would love to see. And that was the card that we just played from hand. Or rather from our leader ability, but we have not used anything from hand, so we might as well take you and destroy Detloff again. And so they're giving themselves armor with the boat builders, which is why all these guys are very highly armored up, besides Mullane, who's a little bit armored up. But is that reason enough to go after boat builders? I mean, we have 1 more round of damage from the other Cyclops after this, and a tiny bit from Werecat. You're giving us bleed, so you do have some long-term value. There's something to be said for destroying one of you. Yes, we do that. Alright, yeah, now that we've gotten Detloff out here, I think we're in much better shape.
Waste of arrows, that lot.
Okay, now we can probably destroy Detloff again and go after this Corsair to shut down a little more bleed. Means Detloff is a little bit bigger, which means when we consume him, he's worth a little bit more. And so this is what I mean, it compounds. The earlier you do it, the more the boosts start to add up. The more the base power starts to add up on you, the more the boost starts to add up on you.
No one wanted these lands.
That's not a bad play. Alright, but now, I mean, technically speaking, Werecat is a card we'd like to consume, but Detloff is worth more. So I think we will play you, but even after doing so, I mean, actually, you'll probably destroy it, so that helps us a little bit, because it's below 3, so we'll just continue to do our Detloff thing. Wild Boar of the Sea, that's a decent source of damage that will technically destroy this Werecat. Alright, then we just finish by consuming you once again. And the straight 17 points from Pit Fighter. No setup needed.
Let's crack on with it.
So I think we are good now. Again, probably spent more energy than I would have liked to have spent in this encounter, but it was technically a hard enemy still, so there's something to be said for that. And with your damage here, that's not going to be enough. So we'll take the win. All right, let's see. Anything big we can add. Another Pig Witch, potentially. Or at this point, this is where I might actually start to prefer removing some of our lower value cards, like the Harpy Egg, because yes, in theory, Witch Apprentice is also worth 2 points per turn, as are the other 2 Witch Apprentices that we already have. The problem is, we're always going to have Pit Fighter in our hand. That's 1 card. That's probably going to be the last turn play in basically every encounter, or very close to last turn play. But the Witch Apprentice is a card that we want to play fairly early, right? The earlier we play it, the more time it has to build up its value. Yes, we need to get up to 25 points first, I suppose, eventually. Pit Fighter might be 25 points by itself, and then you can say, well, that means you can just drop Witch Apprentice turn 2. It's probably still not what we're going to do, though, because for the most part, we are looking to try to set up Slizzard plus Detloff Higher Vampire as early as possible, and so that means these are, in basically every encounter, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, technically, synergizes with it, and then that means, at that point, it's only by turn 4 and turn 5 that you're getting these Witch Apprentices, and that means that there's less time for them to get boosted up, and if you add another one, that's best case scenario turn 6, with only 10 turns in a match, best case scenario, it's still not worth that much, so it's kind of getting to the point where there are diminishing returns to a somewhat significant degree, and perhaps making sure that we remove some of the lower value cards like Harpy Egg, since now we are basically always going to be consuming Detloff and never going to have reason to consume Harpy Egg instead, unless we don't have Detloff. If we remove Harpy Egg, we have a higher chance of getting Detloff, and we don't need to use our leader ability to make that happen as much. So it's a little bit of a balancing act between, yes, maximizing our point total, but also getting some consistency. And in case you're wondering, like, well, Lids, we haven't come anywhere near 1,000 points yet. Yes, because we're getting stronger over the course of the run, of course. But the more we upgrade Detloff, the more quickly we can ramp that up. And so basically, we haven't tried to get 1,000 yet, because what we're trying to do is ideally probably upgrade Detloff once, if not, I don't even know what 2 more upgrades does to him, but once he gets boosted by 3 every time he gets consumed, if we play him and then use mirror image, potentially multiple mirror images on the Slizzard, that means we could get, 4 or 5 Detloffs consumed every turn. At that point, he is getting powered up so quickly that this is going to be crazy value. So basically that's the plan, is start off slow and just try to set ourselves up, and then during the latter half of the run, once we have hopefully gotten at least 1, if not potentially 2 more Detloff upgrades, that's where we really start going for it. And hopefully we continue to make other upgrades to our deck that just makes it more feasible for us to achieve that. So we have 1 more normal battle, then we'll have a treasure chest. This is where we really want Girdle Giant Strength, because that would also be a humongous addition, being able to double the power of those Slizzards that keep on consuming Detloff would be really, I don't know if it's more valuable than the additional Slizzards. It might be. It might be. We have this battle first. And this one is the Rune Mage. Do you think he has a normal and a hard version? Which one is this? This is the hard version. Create and play a gold unit and boost it by the number of runestones in your graveyard. So he's basically, every turn he plays a runestone, I remember, which is a random bronze unit of any of a number of factions, depending on what color runestone he does. But then every 3 turns, he creates a gold unit, not a bronze, a gold, and gets boosted by a huge amount based on that number of runestones in the graveyard. So I think the normal version is that's a bronze unit, not a gold unit. It's actually not might not be a huge difference, but I mean, that is he's also very RNG centric. Also very RNG-y, because this is very random, but okay. More cards we like to destroy, but not good ways to do the destroying. Got 1 of them, sort of. So this is why we are trying to remove some of the weaker cards from our deck, because we find ourselves getting flooded with things like Werecat or those Night Wraiths. I mean, at this point, we no longer have that big of a need for Germain, Werecat, and some of the other Hjalmar to a lesser extent, because we may still need the damage in some occasions because we don't really have much coming elsewhere. But we are less reliant on our other combos, and we're starting to want to shift gears into a full-out, pure Slizzard plus Detloff deck. Because, again, we have unlimited Detloff consumptions that we can do at this stage. So, I think we're probably still going Germain here to maximize the cow count.
No matter what.
And it does set up a bigger Hjalmar in case they get something big out first. Morphrog, amazing card at the end of a match when we have a highly boosted card like a 200-point Slizzard, like 1,000-point Slizzard at the end. That would be kind of hilarious if we broke 1,000 points. And then they finish with Morphrog, Heart of Terror, and completely reverse it. That's big. Yeah, we definitely want to play you right now. We can consume you with the Intrigger Warrior, but we don't have a Slizzard yet. We don't have a consistent way to continue to consume you, and that's why we'd like to find a way to duplicate the Slizzard if we somehow make that happen. That's why we have our leader ability for that purpose, yes, but we were hoping for some blue places of power, or maybe an event that could do that. And more runestones, of course. And it boosted by 3. Okay, that's probably just about as well as I could have gone for us. More cards we want to consume. No consumption. Well, we have this consumption, which we're going to do right now. But we kind of like to have someone else who likes to be consumed to put next to you, but we just want to do this as quickly as possible here. And, you know, is this another situation where we want to, use a Visions to get out the Slizzard, so we can do that consumption? Heck, even Ethereal would work. It would be less valuable, but basically just be a means to increase Detloff's space power and not much else. And I suppose still spawn multiple Ethereals, but since he's not absorbing Detloff's power, he's definitely much worse than the Slizzard would be in this situation. We might want to do it. I think we just do it. We make it happen now, and then we don't have to worry about it in the future then. Oh, right, we're getting 2 copies because it's our first special card. So we could go Ethereal and put him down here next to the cows. Yes, I think Fran Warrior might be better, though. Just get him boosted up every time we do this stuff. So we lost. So I admittedly kind of looked away / zoned out for a split second there, and I was thinking, Fran Warrior, I'm gonna push you down here. Except that was the Slizzard first, not the Fran Warrior. And Slizzard can only consume things in its row, and Detloff is not in that row. So, we probably just lost. From a silly zoning out and looking away, kind of, sort of. That stinks. We can still boost you up from consuming these cows. Or if you want to. How dare you? We might still be able to make this work. We do technically still have some other things that we'd like to consume with, like this Night Wraith, like the Werecat. We can destroy Detloff with this Cyclops, so we have a way. And we're gonna get one more card after this, but obviously Slizzard is our only consistent way of consuming every turn. So, we are at 25 points, so Witch Apprentice is probably still our best play here.
Quick, move those hooves, or we'll both be ham.
On one hand, consuming means less power for Hjalmar's damage. On the other hand, it means 1 more point on the boost for Fran Warrior, so we kind of like to play you soon as well. Do they have any, I mean, consuming this, or destroying this lizard, it's probably not nearly as valuable for them as one would be for us, so it's not really a big factor. We don't have anything that's high priority. Yeah, we'll just do this. So I'm hoping we can still make this happen, but that was a humongous misplay of the stupidest variety. Just the, not paying close enough attention. Oh. That is a card we'd like to destroy.
Mind you, I do like them.
1, 2, 3. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Does Hjalmar count? I hope he does, because we kind of need to destroy. Iteran will spawn in a 1-power copy of whatever card they spawn every turn. He can do it once, but if they happen to get cards spawning in, like actually the PFI does spawning, but is this the runestones count as count as spawning? This is at least 1 point per turn, potentially more if he happens to spawn in a 1-power copy of an engine of some variety. So you must go. So that means this is the Hjalmar turn. It's probably going to be the Hjalmar turn anyway, because we wanted to...
Who wants to take Galaxy
Yes, okay.
Sail?
He does count himself. We wanted to make sure that we got the damage early, so we can continue to consume every turn and not worry about making his deployability weaker. And you consuming does, for what's worth, make Grand Warrior a little bit stronger, so that's good. They're doing a whole bunch of consumption. I mean, yeah, consumption actually does technically give us 1 point worth of boost. So, we'll take it. So now... so we're just consuming you. I mean, we would like to get Werecat down here for Thrive purposes. Just considering putting you in range row just to get the damage here, but again, can't consume you with Slizzard if you're in the range row, so... Alright, I guess we'll do this. And we will wait to consume you until we triggered your Thrive a little bit more. The reason why I was initially so concerned about, and chose to, get this Lizard out from our deck to combine with Detloff was because this guy, with his leader ability, this increases power substantially toward the latter end of the match, since boosted by the number of runestones in their graveyard. It's a lot of runestones in that graveyard, and the number is only going to get higher as the match goes on. So now, let us, either of you are cards we'd like to consume / destroy. Cyclops can do that a little bit as well, but let's do you. Consume. Yeah, we might want to use Cyclops there anyway. Plenty of stuff we want to consume. Again, the limitation is the consumption itself.
Folks, kaboom! Shit, how'd that go?
Okay, Dildrick giving them card draw, which doesn't directly lead to points. Also kind of curious to see how the AI chooses to use Dildrick and decide which cards they keep and which cards they put back into their deck. But now let's spawn. This row's getting a little crowded, so we might go Cyclops, destroy Detloff here, and instead just consume someone else and make a little more space so that Night Wraith will eventually have room. Might have to be our last turn play, and we'll play Pit Fighter's second to last turn. We could do this. And we use it to destroy Detloff. I mean, there isn't really anyone who's a super high priority to get rid of. We'll hit Dodrick just because you don't have armor. Considering... oh, why did you get that? Now we don't necessarily benefit from boosting any more than they do. Or consuming any more than they do. I was considering actually consuming Germain just to avoid taking the damage from the bleed. But... no, he's not going to have time to spawn in anything else. So yeah, that actually was the right play. don't. What the heck? How are they getting all these Ran Warriors? Now they're benefiting from consumption more than we are. What the heck? What the heck? Okay, so we'll definitely throw down Pit Fighter here, which will definitely trigger
Let's take a gander
that.
at your insides then.
So we have technically now 3 cards we'd like to consume, and only 2 turns worth of consumption here. So do we consume Germain to avoid taking 2 bleed damage? Do this to spawn into... I suppose Germain and Night Wraith are both worth 2 points to consume. Whereas you are worth 1, 2... Everyone's worth 2 points to consume, apparently. Okay. This potentially is worth more if they happen to get another card in this row that does not have armor. So I guess that means we'll consume Germain, and we just won't consume Night Wraith. We'll consume you on the next turn. We gain 1 point here from you. Prevent ourselves from taking 2 points of damage from bleed, so it's 3 points of value. They gain 2 points, so on net was still worth 1 for us, but it was not thrilled to see these guys down here, because it's not nearly as valuable as it once was. Similar, they're doing all this stuff to destroy units. That was, I don't remember how much power that had, but it's not that small. Okay, so now, yeah, still 2 points of damage, 1 point of boost, 2 points of boost for them, so still net 1 point for consuming Cat, and similar story for this Night Wraith, although we might not have enough space to spawn in all those rats anyway.
The moon, how bright it shines.
So 21. Oh, they do have leader ability on their last turn. We probably have to do something here. We probably do. They get 1 boost from this. They can consume something that's net 1 point more than we get. So that's 1 point, 2 points, and then whatever they're getting from leader ability, and then whatever they're getting from their hand. That's too many things, I think, for us to feel okay about that. I mean, yes, we're gonna get 2 more points out of Witch Apprentice, but that's still probably not enough. Well, I mean, it's a 31 point lead. Gonna be 33 point lead. It would be close, I think. How many runestones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Potentially 10 if they do this first, so it's what? 2 or 3 points we said, plus 10 is 13-ish. The value of whatever card they have here, and the value of whatever card they have here. So if it's 33 minus 13, 20 point, basically the value of this card they get here and this card here, is that worth 20 or more? If so, then we need to do something. If it's worth less than that, then we don't. So how good do we think these cards are? This is a gold. Is it a good gold? Just thinking about what if we thought it was necessary for us to do this, what could we do? Visions to play Witch Apprentice, which would be 8, I think is best. Right, Ethereal here is 7. Cleanse is just 3. That's cheaper, but obviously less effective. Mirror Image on Witch Apprentice is 4. Or no, 3 once it gets boosted up, the additional copy. Kinda hate it. But we might need to. If we had not made the misplay earlier, we probably did not need to do this. But we did, so we do. Think we should be safe now. Oh dear. Okay, no, they're not gonna have time for that order ability. If they did, then oh my goodness, that would have been potentially absolutely humongous. Granted, if they double down on the deploy ability, destroying their own car, yeah, that was kind of hilarious the way that they botched that, but still. All right, so that was a roadblock that was not very welcome. A roadblock, if ever there is such a thing. Gets summoned back out when he gets destroyed, so we can consume him. 9 base power is not bad, but I think at this point we've established that more than anything we need consistency. I mean, damage is not bad. Damage on several different cards, and 10 base power is not bad either, but I think we really need to get rid of stuff like Harpy Egg. It's becoming an issue. Becoming an issue. Getting flooded with those low value cards. Alright, but this could be big from the treasure chest. If we find ourselves getting the Girdle of Giant Strength, we can double the power of one of our units, which could be doubling the Pit Fighter, which is getting stronger every successful battle. But the dream is you consume Detloff over and over again with a Slizzard, and then if you create multiple Slizzards with Mirror Image, you start having the Slizzards consume the other Slizzards on your very last turn, so all of the strength gets consolidated into a single Slizzard, which then gets doubled the Girdle of Giant Strength, and that's how you have the best probability of hitting 1,000, I think. So that's what we really want to see here. And we get it. Okay, that's huge. Alright, it is now possible. Especially if we finish this elite battle here. It might already be possible when used with Mirror Image, but we also need to make sure that we get this. Of course, again, consistency is becoming an issue a bit because we did add a lot of cards to the deck. We added, what, 1, 2, 3? We started to remove some. Yes, and Pit Fighter, and now, of course, Girdle of Giant Strength, but if we only play 10 cards in a match, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did I already count you? 7. Point is, we don't have much margin for error when it comes to drawing into the cards we want. But I think we're going for it here. If we do this, we have no choice but to go into this elite battle afterward, for what it's worth. And then if we wanted to restore energy after that, then that would mean foregoing the blue place of power over here, where we would consider duplicating a Slizzard. But given how we have the leader ability to duplicate the Slizzard, maybe that's not... Maybe the blue is not that big of a factor anyway. Okay, let's do it. We've already seen failed experiment. This guy has some mill. It's actually not a terrible thing if we are concerned about the number of cards in our deck. So let's see. We have Detloff. We have Slizzard. Cool. And more consumption. And Witch Apprentice. This is just about as good as it gets. We'd like to see Girdle of Giant Strength. Is the one thing we're missing here. But this is not terrible. This is very good, to the point where we might settle for this. I think we do. Okay, drawn to Cyclops, that's not as big of a deal. So this guy is the one that deals damage to us, and the damage can add up quite a bit between his leader ability, and he has one particular card that he plays that does something like deals extra damage if we have cards that are not on their starting value or something like that. But the thing is, he has these guys that start on the board that all give him passive value of some variety. Whenever we play a unit, boost self by 1, so this is going to get stronger, longer it stays on the board. Whenever we play a spell, we lose energy, and we kind of wanted to play spells to create additional Slizzards, so maybe this is not the encounter in which we go for 1,000, but, or we could shut you down. Whenever a unit appears in the melee row, damage it by 2. I swear, there's a version of this guy that deals damage to range row. I remember this as dealing damage to range row, so I'm glad we read this, because I did not expect it to deal damage to the melee row. And then you have us draw a card if we destroy you. So this is a card we would like to destroy, but every time we destroy one of these guys, is damage increases by 1. So it's kind of, you'd like to destroy them as late as possible. At least this guy as late as possible to minimize the damage here. But then again, these guys have strong enough passive abilities that maybe shutting them down early is still worth doing early. But I think, at least initially, we go Slizzard. We probably boost it up. And we could either boost it with Cleanse twice, because we'll repeat that first special that we played, the first spell. Or we go Mirror Image and we get 3 copies of it, and that's the super aggressive approach, which basically the assumption there is maybe they'll destroy one of the Slizzards, but they presumably will not be able to destroy 3 Slizzards on 1 turn. And so that way they can, on our next turn, all consume Detloff, and in doing so, at that point, they should probably be out of removal range. That's the theory, at least. So that's what I am weighing here. Obviously, Mirror Image is more expensive, and we're going to take another hit to our energy from this, but I think we do very much need to make sure that Slizzard at least survives turn 1. And if we're going to take this flat energy fee, then I think we might as well use our spells once and make that 1 time really count, so this only triggers once. And I think that means you go Slizzard. You're going to get powered up. Then we're going to go Mirror Image for the first time, I believe. Get 2 copies of it. So these Slizzards are going to be 1 power, yes. So they are easy to destroy on this turn if they go with damage, which they presumably will with that, but double the base power of one of the Chapter Enforcers. All the Chapter Enforcers? Oh, they went for the one that was on higher power. Thank you very much. So now we play Detloff, and this is what we love. Let's consume you first with the strongest one, because Detloff is going to increase in power every time we do this. 8 energy already. Wow. And that means you guys are getting the bigger boost, and you guys need it more, so that is worth doing. And now Detloff is already up to 8, so this is the combo we're looking for, right? It's just make sure that we get Detloff powered up quickly, so that these Slizzards get powered up quickly, rinse, repeat, and then at the end, we will look to have the Slizzards consume the other Slizzards, and our final Slizzard, we can use Girdle of Giant Strength on that if we get it, and that gives us the doubling of a Slizzard, and potentially gets us up to 1,000, but I think this is obviously an elite battle, which will make Detloff stronger if we can complete it, and so we don't need to have that happen just yet. We just, 1 step at a time. We need to finish this encounter. Spawn Guardian at the top of our deck. That's going to be a weak card for us, so we'd rather not get. So yeah, basically this guy is all deck, or primarily deck manipulation, either forcing out cards from our deck or banishing them, or putting weak cards that we'll draw into instead. So we could go Hjalmar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and destroy, well, can't destroy any of you. Yeah, it's not a huge factor then. So we're already on 25 points, which means Witch Apprentice does work here. Could also go Intrigger Warrior and just get another way to consume Detloff, and that means each subsequent consumption is more valuable. So it's also worth saying something, but I mean, that's, I think we'll go Witch Apprentice first.
Quick! Move those hooves, or we'll both be ham!
Okay, so again, trying to consume with our smallest ones first. Or rather, biggest ones first, smallest ones last. So that way we're keeping the smaller ones protected, but I mean, at this point, they should be out of removal range. So that was the key, was just getting this set up initially. I know you can't see my face right now, but my jaw did kind of just drop, because this was the card we were looking for. Oh. So, here's the thing. If, say, we were to use another mirror image and create a 4th Slizzard, we might be able to do it in this encounter. But then we're blown through every last bit of our energy, and we do have an elite battle after this. So that's kind of a scary thought. That is so incredibly tempting. But I think we probably pass on creating the additional scissors for now, and we just do a bit of a check on, okay, how much is this worth? Without creating, or with using one round of additional scissors, how much is that worth? With Girdle of Giant Strength. Okay, so in that case, I think now we're probably looking to consume Detloff one more time with the Intrigger Warrior so that it's going to be stronger whenever these scissors consume it. I think that's, for what it's worth, Cyclops could destroy you or you, and we're going to have to play stuff in the melee row kind of soon. You're going to get stronger over time. It might be worth destroying you. Yes, it means you're going to get a little more damage on your leader ability, true. But I think at this point, I mean, yes, you're going to be... You'll only get boosted by 2 every turn. It's a chance they'll be able to catch you, especially if they combine that with the Synthesis Blaze damage and just focus it all down on you. But we might take that chance. I think we'll get rid of you. Okay. So now, once again, consume with the big ones first. I mean, again, these scissors at this point are pretty safe. They have one card in particular that might be able to shut down one of our units, which is potentially the reason why we don't want to go all in on one particular Slizzard in this specific encounter, because they might have... now I'm blanking out on his name. I can picture his face. He's a big character as well. Vilgefortz, who sends one of our cards on the board to the graveyard and then basically summons a card from our deck to replace it. So it may not seem like a huge deal, but it's basically them taking a chance on removing something big and hoping that whatever replaces it is much smaller. And if all of our points are allocated to one unit and they then remove that unit with Vilgefortz, then we are in huge trouble. So for that reason, this is probably also not the best encounter in which to go all in on one Scissor, which is eventually what we were planning to do. Ego's Muzzle can steal you, but that's fine. We don't really care about you. They are focusing the damage on the Witch Apprentice, but it's not enough to destroy it, thankfully. Okay, I mean, I think it's probably Intrigger Warrior unless we think we're gonna try to use Hjalmar to destroy something else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hjalmar would be 6. We could destroy you. But, I mean, yeah, if we destroy you, it means suddenly we can play Germain in the melee row, because otherwise Germain is gonna be pretty much useless. And it means we're enabling that leader ability a little bit. At this point, it's enough damage to completely counteract Witch Apprentice if they trade off boost damage, then it's going to stay at 5 power, but I don't know if they're going to always go after this. Haven't taken particular note if that's been the case thus far. It's not super time sensitive yet. It's more just a matter of what, yeah, let's go with you first. I was going to say, what else do we play now instead of that? Technically, the longer we wait on that, the bigger the consumption is on you. Yeah, now I'm just not even bothering trying to min-max the Slizzards at all. See, this is what I mean. So, this adds up pretty quickly, right? Next turn, we should exceed 200.
Welcome.
And Sam of Been Wild, thanks for the follow. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Doing all right. We are trying to break 1,000 points here, and it is starting to come together. It is really starting to come together. It is theoretically possible we could do it in this encounter, but I think we're probably going to wait one more after this. This is an elite battle, and so it would allow us to upgrade Detloff further, and that next upgrade is pretty huge. We might already have enough to make it happen, but technically speaking, it would use up every last bit of our energy, and we do have an elite battle coming up almost immediately after this, so that we have no way to dodge. So, thinking we probably want to, save at least a tiny bit. What's up, Slasher? How are you? How's it going? We're playing some Gwent Rogue Mage. We are trying to basically set a personal high score, is more or less the idea here. And the combo is based on absorbing the power of this guy, consuming him with these guys. They can all consume him once per turn and absorb his power. That's why they've all gotten pretty big. And every time he does get consumed, his power increases, which we can demonstrate right here. So we consume him, you absorb the power, he comes back out from our graveyard and gets powered up every time we do this. So it compounds pretty quickly here. So we are now approaching 250, and then our finisher is to double the power of one unit. So if we get one of these lizards up to, several hundred, then we double it at the end of the match. Then that's our plan for getting to 1,000. If I were to choose one faction to fight for/defend to the end, once I've chosen the faction, there's no going back. Who would I choose and why? By factions, you're referring to like Gwent's multiplayer factions like Northern Realms, Nilfgaard, Monsters, Scoia'tael, Skellige, Syndicate? Is that what you mean? Or like more specifically, like within the Northern Realms, Temeria versus Redania versus Kovir and Povis? Or something entirely different, and I'm totally off. Yeah? Okay. I definitely know the answer. The answer is definitely Northern Realms. Because, what's my reasoning though? It's the first faction that I played in multiplayer Gwent. So it's the one that I sort of initially fell in love with, so to speak. It's been the one that I've played the most. The one that I guess feel the most personal attachment to. It's one that actually, for that very reason, a few months ago, I got the chance to reveal a new card for Gwent multiplayer when an expansion got released, the Black Sun expansion, and I had the choice to pick the faction of which one I wanted to reveal for, and so I deliberately chose Northern Realms for that very reason. So that's why. All those reasons. The answer is definitely Northern Realms. That's purely from a Gwent standpoint, but from a Witcher standpoint as well, because I have played The Witcher 3. I don't know, I like Temeria, to put it simply, and I like Vernon Roche, so Northern Realms it is for me. What about you? What's your favorite? Let's see. For this turn, right, this guy's, now they have a little bit more damage every turn with Nithral. So they're going to damage anything we play in the melee row, and we kind of want to get you in the melee row, so there's some question as to whether we were going to try to destroy you. We might do that. Technically, we could delay a little bit longer. What if we just sacrifice this trash guardian that they gave us and put this in our silly little melee row that's gonna get damaged? And save our valuable range row real estate for more important stuff. And it does look like they're damaging you. Oh, every turn this is gonna get locked, right? Yeah. Alright, so now that's shut down. So glad they did not do that to a Slizzard. Otherwise, Slizzard can only consume stuff in the same row, so that would have been, we have a pretty huge lead here, so I don't think it would have been catastrophic, but it would have slowed us down a lot. So every turn we can do this. Every turn we can do this. And as I said, every turn it just gets bigger. And because this is a mini boss that we're fighting right now, if we emerge victorious, rather than getting powered up by 1 every time we do this, he'll get powered up by 3, which is why, yes, we could potentially go for 1,000 here, but ideally we wait until after this encounter. So let's see, now we have a little more room in the range row for what it's worth. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 means 8 damage if we were to use Hjalmar here, which means we could go after this Illuminator. Right, the concern was that if we were to hit you, and destroy you, it would increase his damage from his leader ability that he uses every turn, and these two were basically just countering each other. 2 damage every turn, 2 boosts every turn, wanted to keep this Witch Apprentice alive, whereas if we destroyed you, eventually you would get destroyed. You've been locked, so that's no longer a factor, so I think we can just get rid of you now. I think that's not as big of an issue at this stage. Because, oh no, not you. You. because that enables us to play Germain melee row, otherwise all the cows we spawned in would have gotten destroyed. Yeah, now they're just trying to, destroy Dettloff. That made me a little nervous for a second, because I saw they were going to destroy something that had a status, and I had to see if any of the Slizzards had a status on them. Fortunately, they did not. If they did it to Dettloff, he would have just come back out and actually would have helped us, but... Okay, so now we can use Germain melee row. So we will. Because the cows will not immediately get destroyed, thankfully. But now we just continue to do what we've been doing. And the numbers just get bigger every turn, and at this rate, it's looking pretty decent. I think we'll use our Pit Fighter Point Slam here. Oh no, have we already played this turn? Did we do Kilmar this turn? Oh no, we did Germain this turn.
For you, my friend, always.
So this is what I was referring to. They have some mill where they're gonna summon out a card from our deck. Which, basically it's a high power card, but it's 13 points, but you basically have to do 13 minus 5, so really it's more like an 8, which is good, but not amazing. So now I think it's Pit Fighter.
Let's crack on with it.
And the question we're gonna need to ask ourselves, is do we go for it on our next turn? So theoretically speaking, on our next turn, what we could do would be, with this Slizzard, consume Dettloff. With this Slizzard, consume this Slizzard. With this Slizzard, consume this other Slizzard. So that means this one Slizzard gets all the power of the 3 Slizzards consolidated into one single card. The reason why we would do that would be because then we can double the power of that one card. And if this gets up to, at that point, what? It'd be around 500. That might get us to 1,000. That is, in theory, the combo that we are trying to do. The reason why we might not do it to this enemy in particular is because we are still concerned about a potential Vilgefortz play, which is, again, the unit that will send one of our units to the graveyard and summon out one of the cards from our deck to replace it. So that may sound like, oh, okay, sure, you lose one, you gain one. Problem is, if we lose a 1,000 point card and replace it with a 3, that's gonna stink. Would it be hilarious? Oh, totally. But, you know, especially when if we just make it through this encounter, we can get stronger still. I think we probably don't, but oh boy, is it tempting. Oh, poison. Hold on. On who? Okay, well, that's kind of hilarious because, I mean, if you're gonna poison him, then he's just gonna get destroyed and get powered up when he comes back out. Do we do it? So if we do the math here, it'd be about 300, it'd be about 450 extra points when we W. Oh, I'm not even sure it'd be enough. It would be incredibly close, but it might not quite be enough. So if there was any reason to hesitate, that might be it. Because, I mean, it'd be one thing if, okay, mission accomplished, we got 1,000 points. Oh, by the way, opponent deletes our 500 point Slizzard. Hilarious, but hey, at least we still achieved our objective. If we got to 999 and then our opponent destroyed our 500 point Slizzard, feel a lot worse about that. So I think we probably do not go for it. Tempting as it is, and it really is, it'll still be worth a lot of points. But this is just a tease of what we're hoping to do in the future. I like how it says plus 99, but I can't even fit the triple digits with that boost. So yeah, it's a pretty big Slizzard. So of course now we don't know if they're gonna have Vilgefortz. I am fairly certain I've seen this enemy use him in the past. So maybe it's an abundance of caution, but Okay, it's not him, for what it's worth. We could have done it, potentially. Maybe it would have been enough for us to get 2,000. Maybe it would have been. It would have used all of our remaining energy, so probably still... It was definitely the safe choice. But I think we have established here that certainly after defeating this elite enemy and having the potential to upgrade Detloff, hold on. Boost all copies of an allied unit by 5? Nah, not good enough. This is way stronger. Way stronger. Alright, so this was the other concern, was now we have this event followed immediately after by an elite battle. So another mini-boss when we have just 8 energy, which means, well, we did use some energy in that previous encounter, of course. We spawned in additional Slizzards, and then did we have to use anything to draw into Detloff, or did we already have Detloff? I think we already had Detloff, didn't we? Right. So we just took an energy penalty because one of their units cost us extra energy, or made us spend extra energy whenever we used a spell. So... is it possible to go after this elite battle? Here, here, here. I don't think we can double back. I mean, that'd be amazing. Well, actually, we go here, get energy from this spot, then go battle here. Oh, this is... wait. Are these two distinct paths? They are. Then we could, I think, still go up here and either get energy, or this one does allow us to duplicate a card. So if we can afford to not take energy, then this would potentially be a way for us to duplicate the Slizzard, giving us not only better consistency, but more Slizzards means more consumption, which means more ways to scale Detloff more quickly. And Detloff, after finishing that elite battle, now gets boosted by... gets his base power increased by 3 every time he gets consumed. What happens if he gets upgraded again? Because we're about to face another enemy. This unit starts on the battlefield. And Veil, which means he can't get locked. So basically just a substantial consistency improvement there. Okay. I see. So he's... alright. Not getting higher points, per se, but just way more consistent. Okay. Okay. Also, Pit Fighter is now at 29. So the other thing is that we did get very lucky with a very good set of cards. Basically, the perfect set of cards in that match to try to hit 1,000. But again, getting a little ahead of ourselves. We have this event, then an elite battle. What do we have here? Fight Club. This is the one that you take a bet, and it's either low chance of success for a high reward or high chance of success for a small reward. Make our way through the alleys of town. Hear the roar of the frenzied crowd. Intrigued, you follow the sound to a stable where a group of men cheer as 2 topless fighters punch each other into bloody pulps. What is this? What is this? You go to ask before the ringmaster cuts you off. No questions. You shrug, fair enough, and stick around and watch the next bout. We have a 30% chance to upgrade a unit by 10, or a 70% chance to upgrade a unit by 3. We might be able to do this with Detloff. If so, starting him with 3 more base power may not sound like much, but that's not just 3 base power from the initial unit that gets played. It's also 3 additional power every single time he gets consumed. So that, again, just compounds. So, I mean, obviously 10 is better still. Way better still. But I think we go for this one. So, I mean, any base power upgrade at all to Detloff would be huge. So I think we just try to get something out of it. I mean, that would be just ridiculous, but... okay, I think we were correct? Yes. Are we allowed to upgrade our key card? If not, then we'll do it on the Slizzard. Yeah, it doesn't look like we can. Yeah, we're not allowed to. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think it's Slizzard, just to keep him safer, and that means there's less pressure to boost Slizzard turn 1 with Cleanse, which is really important, because that means since our first special card, our first spell that we play gets doubled, we'd really rather that not be Cleanse. We'd much rather that be the spell that creates additional copies of Slizzard. So yeah, it could be, I probably should be Slizzard. Upgrading the base power on Ethereal is also not bad, but, you know, we're focusing on this combo. We're going all in on this combo. Alright, so now it's another elite battle. So we have precisely enough energy to do one of our big spells. So either it would be guarantee that we get both Slizzard and Detloff on the board, which is probably what we're going to do. Or if we already have both of them in hand, then create additional copies of the Slizzard, which is what happened last time around. And I think we are willing to use that energy because we're expecting to get energy after this encounter, assuming we can succeed. But we've already encountered Failed Experiment, which for the most part, I would argue is the most difficult of the enemies, of the elite enemies. And the Templar dude that we fought last time is not that, well, he's on the higher end, I think, as well. So what, Mountain King and Maxie, I think, are the only ones left? Probably prefer Mountain King. It is Mountain King. Okay. I think that bodes well for us here. Ooh. We have Slizzard. Can we get Detloff in hand? Can we get Detloff in hand? We get Girdle in hand. Ooh. Yeah, we're probably still going to use Visions to get Detloff. And then, since we will duplicate that then, we'll get Grand Warrior out as the other one, I think, because he'll benefit from all the consumption. And the card we actually play from hand will be Slizzard. So this will be interesting then. That means fewer Slizzards to consume Detloff. However, every time the consumption happens, it's worth... It scales more rapidly. Should be roughly the same, right? 3 Slizzards versus increasing... Oh, no. It's going to be really close, I think. Right? Okay, so we do this. Make sure you play these in the right row. Because we will do this. We will do this. This is our last energy. So first, it's Detloff. Now, there's a chance we were going to draw into Detloff eventually. True. But playing it safe here. Okay, this is Detloff. He must go in this row. This is the Grand Warrior. You can go in this row. That's fine. So now we've one turn before Slizzard can consume this vampire because he's got his summoning sickness. We're okay with you getting destroyed. You're just going to get boosted slowly. And if they get another one on the board, then eventually it'll start dealing damage, but it's not an immediate threat. Okay. So now let's do this. Well, I mean, technically we could. What if we do this? You're an 8, and then we use Cyclops to destroy you and shut down what would have otherwise been one of their most threatening cards. Otherwise, I mean, getting Witch Apprentice down as early as possible is definitely good as well, but sure, we'll destroy you, and by destroying Detloff as well in the process, make him come back stronger. Nice. So next turn's probably you. Yeah, because they're going to play another one, so they are not super strong, but if you get if they have 2 or more on the board, then they become stronger. So, opting to play it a little bit safe. And it's another way to consume Detloff, yes, but I think we'll go for Witch Apprentice here.
They're surprisingly clean creatures.
Love every voice line from that card. Keep on doing this. You get boosted by 1 every time we do, and this gets big very, very quickly. And for what it's worth, when we only have 1 on the board, there's less of that question of, do you have every Slizzard consume all the other Slizzards and then double that? No, we're just going to double this at the end of the match no matter what. And, well, I mean, maybe that is going to be enough by itself. So now, I mean, we do technically want to trigger your Thrive if we can. We do also want to consume you eventually, but you know... So I'm questioning whether we put you next to Detloff, and have Andrea Warrior consume both Detloff and you, or do we prefer you? We might actually prefer you to set up an earlier Hjalmar. Yeah, I think that's the play.
The moon burned bright and shining.
And did we have the Grand Warrior set up in our previous encounter? Not sure if we did. That looks familiar. How would I explain Gwent to someone asking for a friend, want to get him into it, but he's down, but just don't know how to explain it? He's never played The Witcher. Yeah, I guess it's a question of, are you explaining it from a game mechanic standpoint, or are you explaining it more from a, like lore standpoint? Like, are you trying to say, well, you're playing as one of several groups of people. Either you're, a group of monsters, or you're these big imperial people who are trying to conquer the entire continent. And this is why these people are your enemies. Or are you talking more about, well, there are two sides of the board. You play units that have power value, and you can some of those units have abilities. You can power up those units as well, and at the end of the match, it's about whoever scores more points wins a round. If you win 2 out of 3 rounds, you win the match. Both? Never played The Witcher. Is this person familiar with what The Witcher is about, thematically at least? Like, I guess I would say, start off with, it's a card game based on the Witcher universe. However, you do not need to be familiar with the Witcher universe to play the game or enjoy the game. It's a, you can do it with it. You can do both those things without having played The Witcher before. And it takes place in a fantasy world in the past, about medieval ages. And there are several groups of people that you can choose to represent. You can be either some imperialistic people trying to conquer the entire world. You can be the people who are trying to fend off those who are trying to conquer the entire world. That's Nilfgaard and Northern Realms, respectively. You can be some pirate, Viking, warrior dudes, Skellige. You can be monsters, or you can be crime people. Who am I forgetting? Or you can be, like, elves and dwarves and stuff. Those are the people you can choose from. And then in terms of the actual gameplay, yeah, it's a 3-round game. You need to outscore your opponent in 2 out of 3 rounds to beat them. And in each round, you're playing units, which are basically like people that have a point value once you play them. And then you can, with those people, either boost your other cards or damage your opponent's cards and use a bunch of other abilities to try to gain an advantage over your opponent. That's, I guess, like the 1 minute, 2 minute explanation of both the gameplay and the also the backstory behind it. Something like that. We also drew into another Witch Apprentice, which I think we will definitely play here.
A witch's best friend is a pig, no doubt.
Does that make sense? Does that kind of fit what you're looking for? I love it when they hit our 55-point scissor for 3 damage and think that's going to do anything. This is potentially a little bit dangerous, though. Whenever it's Thrive is triggered, damage random enemy by 3. I mean, again, 3 damage is not really a big factor for us, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This would be 10. When we play Hjalmar, it's just enough damage to destroy you, so I think we will do just that.
Hjalmar on fate coming for ya.
Assuming again, I'm pretty sure we were thinking about putting Night Wraith next to Detloff, weren't we? And then we didn't do that. Oh well. We were also considering putting Werecat next to him. No worries, no worries. Alright, so now I think it's Werecat. Damage you. It's Endrigger Warrior. Oh, right, no, well, obviously that's next turn. It will be Endrigger Warrior in between these two. Trigger the Death Wish. Obviously, trigger this Death Wish as well. now we do this. And consume you. So it doesn't feel like this is popping off quite as much as when we had the triple slizzards before. Detloff is stronger now, yes, but it seems as though maybe my mental math was wrong there before. Alright, but let's go Pit Fighter now. Just to give us one more turn to do this. And then next turn we'll consume Detloff and we'll double you with this Girdle Giant Strength. Okay, Old Spirit Tip is a good point slam, yes, but I mean, that's still not really anything in comparison to what we're rocking here. So let's consume you. And then double ya. So yeah, we're definitely not getting up to 1,000 here. But again, this is another elite battle, which means at this point, it's going to guarantee, assuming that they don't have an amazing finisher here, but I'm pretty sure that it is always, what's his name? The Sylvan, the guy who gives more hand boosting whenever he gets hand boosted. His name currently escapes me. But, you're going to guarantee that you start on the board and have Veil so you can't get locked. Those are the big things that we gain from finishing this. So that means we will hopefully no longer need to be using visions, much if at all, which means we can instead spam Mirror Image, and that's how we get more Slizzards, and that's how we really start ramping up the points. Oh no. Not the finisher I was expecting. Steal a card. Pretty sure it steals a card that's like up to the amount of points that it had, and it was up to 17. So it's not like it was about to steal one of our 300-point Slizzards, but it was kind of hilarious because it stole a 1-point rat. Okay, so we can either upgrade Detloff or downgrade an allied unit to 1, gain 25 energy. I mean, we have 0 energy right now, so for what it's worth, this is actually not terrible in this situation, and you could make the case that, you know, we technically already have the resources at hand to guarantee that we get Detloff, but with visions. But it means that instead of using our energy on visions, we can use it on Mirror Image instead. So I think that is still worth doing. It's a little tempting, but... So now that is the last upgrade we're going to get on Detloff. And we can also get energy back right here anyway, which is probably what we're about to do. Out of curiosity, if the theory, I'm pretty sure it is only possible to upgrade him one more time, and that is if you happen to have every elite battle perfectly lined up in a run, and that was not the case here. We went after every elite battle we could, but there was one, I think, here. Yeah, that was just on the opposite side of the map that wasn't possible for us. So if you could line up 4 elite battles in a run, what happens? Starts on the battlefield still, summon this unit and another random unit from your graveyard to the same row and increase its own base power by 3. I assume he's still increasing his own base power by 3 as well. I mean, that's chaotic. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that means you could consume both Detloff and something else every turn. In fact, what you would do there is actually, we have the right setup for it if we could get one more elite battle, but again, we can't. What you would do is you would consume Pit Fighter at the end of a run. When he starts at, basically try to turn Pit Fighter into a second Detloff. You try to make it so that he's the only unit in your graveyard when you consume Detloff, so you have 2 Slizzards on the board, you have Pit Fighter, and you have Detloff Higher Vampire. First Slizzard consumes Pit Fighter, second Slizzard consumes Detloff. Detloff brings himself back out and brings out Pit Fighter as well. Both of them increase their base power by 3. The reason why you choose Pit Fighter is because, especially at the end of a run, he's going to be the highest base power card in the game. So, basically, if you can turn him into a Detloff that starts on 35 base power, that's pretty incredible. It's asking, how does he get better? Because won't know what most of the cards do. Only the higher numbers are better. The person with the higher number wins. So, I mean, I would say, there's a few ways you could answer that question. There's a pretty long tutorial. So, I mean, sounds like he might have already started in that case, but it's a pretty long tutorial for the game. So in terms of learning the mechanics, there's definitely time to do it there, or at least get started to. What it's worth, well, so there's that. Also, if he's playing, assuming he's playing in standard, then he's going to start off at a rank at which he's playing other people who are relatively new to the game or haven't won very many games yet. And so it's not like he's going to come in day one and be matched up against the top Gwent players in the world. No, like, the people that he's going to be matched up against at the beginning are people who are also relatively new to the game, figuring out how it works. So in that way, the matchmaking is going to work in his favor. And outside of that, I mean, if you just want to feed him a bunch of Gwent content and be like, here, this is what it looks like to play Gwent. This is how you play Gwent. I mean, we do, of course, have a YouTube channel as well, and I'm making a bunch of deck guides every week, and you can probably tell by how we've been doing this run here. I tend to talk a lot about what we're doing and why it's good or why it's bad, and so I do that deliberately to try to help people get better at playing Gwent. So, you know, I'm not, as you can probably tell, I'm not really the kind of person who just silently goes through the game and just plays a card without mentioning why or how it's doing its thing. So he says this acknowledging that he had a sore throat, stuffy nose, / was sick for the past 2 weeks, and did most recently publish a deck guide in which he did only have the ability to physically commentate over half the video. Outside of that, yes. That irony is not lost on me, but alas. Okay. That being said, we do play seasonal modes just about exclusively, which is probably, it's actually not even possible to do that initially, because the game, I think, requires you to be a certain level before you can start seasonal modes. So, you know, it'd be perhaps a little bit confusing if, you know, in the current seasonal events, like our most recent videos, we're playing dual casting, where the first special card you play on your turn is duplicated, which is actually what's happening here with our current deck in Rogue Mage, which is kind of funny now that I think about it. But you can transform a card over, we can gain energy. We'll definitely gain energy here, but yeah, it might be a little bit confusing for our most recent deck guides, where we are, you know, we are not playing in standard. All right, so let's see what we have here. The Gambler. So we only have 20 energy. So I don't really think we can afford to risk either losing 10 energy or gaining. I mean, obviously gaining 20 energy would be awesome, but I just don't think that's something we can really take any chances on at this point. We have so little margin for error when it comes to our energy, and we are running out of time to pull off our combo to the extent we are trying to pull it off. So I think we decline. And we still have what? Oh no, we don't have access to the... Oh. Wait. What? You're telling me... Hold on. Oh, this path leads here and this path leads here. I thought that one of these crookedy paths went up to this place of power. I was hoping that we'd be able to either get 20 more energy, or the other thing that this would have done, because it was a blue place of power, would have allowed us to duplicate a Slizzard, which... Was this on 38 before? Did this just go down by 3? But, it would have allowed us to potentially duplicate a Slizzard, which would have meant more Slizzards on the board / more consistency. Alright, well, let's proceed here. We have 2 more encounters before the boss fight, which means potentially... See, there's a hard version, there's a normal version, this is the hard version. At the end of your turn, move a random enemy unit with 2 power or less. Basically, they steal cards with 2 or less power, which, if we're playing our deck correctly, shouldn't really be happening much, if at all. We do start with... Oh, goodness. We do start with Detloff on the board, which means if they damage him immediately, there's a chance they could steal him. We could, but Cyclops can destroy him. Yeah, Cyclops can destroy him, and in doing so, get him up to an 8, at which point it's pretty unlikely they could do that. So as much as I do really like having both Witch Apprentices here, we probably do need to mulligan this one. And get this lizard. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's great. I think rather than normally Slizzard first would be the right play, but I think we might need to Cyclops first just to, again, make sure Detloff is a little bit higher power at the end of our turn so that he doesn't get poked and then get stolen. Because this takes a turn before Slizzard can go. So I think, although obviously we're not damaging anything, because they have no units on the board, it is the only way for us to destroy Detloff on this turn and get him powered up unless we use Girdle Giant Strength, which was looking like that was going to have to be our turn 1 play, which I was not looking forward to. But this is, I think, better. And then you're an 8, should get you out of stealing range, even if you get hit a little bit, and then maybe they'll focus on the Cyclops instead. Ooh, that's a little scary. Yes, you will steal this, but not this. Well, kind of need to do the same thing again here, I think. So we could, and would like to, use Slizzard. That is a more sustainable way to power you up. But by doing that, we would risk that Detloff, if he were to get hit by another Mage Infiltrator like that, then he would get stolen. And that's no bueno. And at least we have something to hit this time. Now at 11, Detloff should be pretty clear here. Slizzard at 8, there's some question as to whether... Okay, well, not really concerned about you weakening Detloff further. He'll be fine. Would also consume him with Endrigo Warrior. At this point, I think we're safe, though, with Detloff. Slizzard at 8, there's some question as to whether this could get dropped down to... It's 3 or... Yeah, 3 or lower. But I think, again, they're most likely to go after Cyclops because that is the most feasible for them to get that low. They could do it with Cyclops here. Nothing else is possible, I don't think. They'll even go for the boost on you. Okay, yeah, we're in the clear now. We are now officially in the clear. You're gonna get stolen, probably, unless we consume you immediately with Slizzard, but we'd probably prefer to consume Detloff anyway. So I think we just... Are we at 25 yet? We would be if we played you, and we definitely will be once we consume Detloff. I was gonna do this, but yes, we'll do this.
A witch's best friend is a pig, no doubt.
Okay, now we should be pretty good here for the rest of the match, I would think. Famous last words, of course. Fortunately, nope, we are not good. We are very not good. There goes Detloff. Famous last words indeed. Yeah, no, I was about to say, we should be good because everything is boosted. Not Detloff, though. Not Detloff. Okay, well, okay then. That does fundamentally change some things. Yes, you're still gonna be key. Obviously, you aren't anymore. But, alrighty then. We will consume you immediately and spawn in more of these rats, which are, of course, easy targets for them to steal. But I'm kind of banking on them doing that. Because then, well, I don't know. It is kind of set up for Ethereal, but Ethereal is going to be pretty easy for them to get into stealing range as well. Set up for Hjalmar, which Obviously, we would not use to go after Detloff. We use it on the tree and boar, maybe there. That was... That Vincent. That Vincent, though. Well, that stinks. Except you're playing it in the melee row? That was highly questionable. Seeing as how you could have destroyed every single rat. I mean, I guess maybe you wanted to steal them, which technically was worth more points for you. But now... use Dalmar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Means we can destroy you, or you, or you. All of you are engines. You're 1 point per turn. You're 2 points every other turn. And healing, but I don't think the healing is going to be a factor against us. You're potentially the most points, but it's every 3 turns. And if we play range row, we can avoid you for the most part. It's probably still you. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you can destroy anyone. I think it's you. And I think that means that we are now deliberately consuming people. I mean, yes, there's easy steals from them on all the rats. Maybe it was not a great idea to play the rats as early as we did. Yeah. So do we consume a rat to deny them easy targets? Or do we say, no, they're probably going to poke Dalmar or Cyclops to try to get that in stealing range, and then that's a little bit more valuable for them to go after? Also, we'd like to potentially have Ethereal convert some rats. Eventually. Might consume some on our next turn with... We'll definitely use a Trigger Warrior to consume some on our next turn, I think. I think we do this. Yep. Going for the steal here.
Delightful.
They still steal a rat. Okay, I mean, that works, I guess. So then... we can Trigger Warrior to limit the number of ones. If we do that there... I mean, Cyclops is still in stealing range, so we would like to get that off the table. Now we will consume one of you. And yeah, it means less Ethereal setup, but I mean, we really just could not feasibly use Ethereal in this encounter, I don't think. So I think a lot of this is going to come down to Slizzard consuming Pit Fighter on our second to last turn, and then Girdle Giant Strength to double it. So our lead is slight here, and we've played one more card than they have. We're going to get a little bit more boosting from the Switch Apprentice, but still. We're going to play and steal that, potentially. Another card that is row-locked from melee row and multiplayer Gwent, but they're playing in the range row, which feels weird. And they do steal you. Does technically mean we could Ethereal. Do that. Let's consume this Ethereal. That one doesn't have an ability anymore and was potentially, with some damage, going to be stealing fodder for them. Okay, this, yeah, will get stolen. Actually, didn't want to damage it before they stole it, but okay, they have taken the lead here. I'm not that concerned, because consuming Pit Fighter gets you to 55, which means this Girdle Giant Strength is now a 55-point play. So I think that should be good. Lacerate is not terribly effective either. Oh, also it's going to be a little bit more than... It's going to be 56-point play. So that was a bit of a nasty surprise when they stole Detloff, but no, we don't have very many units, so I don't think Ocvis is going to make a big difference here. Alright, so another hard enemy down. Those are, of course, concerning, seeing as how we are coming just before the boss fight. Ooh, Spawn and play a copy of a bronze unit from your hand. Give it shield. For what it's worth, if we have a Slizzard in hand, that is potentially a way to get an additional Slizzard. Or we can remove Ethereal, probably, for consistency. Again, it is potentially a card you can build around for this deck, but it is very much not the focus we have taken with this run. Ooh, obviously, we're not removing that. But the question is this consistent enough? Because you would need to have both Slizzard and a Dahlia in hand immediately, and then you'd use a Dahlia first to create that copy of Slizzard, then you'd play the Slizzard from your hand, and Detloff would already be on the board. I mean, technically we could use our leader ability, make sure that we play her. We'd still need Detloff, or we'd still need a Slizzard in hand, not on the board already, to make that happen. So it's... Do we have a backup plan if for whatever reason it doesn't work on Slizzard? Would get another Intriga Warrior. Could go with a Ran Warrior, I guess. Witch Apprentice is not terrible, but we'd probably prefer something with consumption or... Yeah. Maybe it's worth trying. I think it's worth trying. Assuming we're going to spend energy aggressively. Either this battle or the next one, because right, don't we have one more before the boss? We do. So here's the thing. Technically speaking, the boss encounter does not matter, because we are doing this on a lower difficulty than usual, because we tried to make it so that we had a higher chance of getting the cards we wanted to get to hit 1,000 points. And we've come very close. We were potentially capable of doing so against the Templar enemy, but we were fearful of potentially getting Vilgefortzed, and it seemed like we might have been just shy of hitting 1,000. So we opted not to go all in then. But we only have 2 more encounters. One of these normal ones, and then the boss. And the reason why I say the boss doesn't matter, because we lowered the difficulty, we don't get the mutagen, which means if all we're trying to do here is reach 1,000 points, and that is all we're trying to do here, then that means if we find that going into one of these battles, we are going up against an enemy that we get a good hand, good starting hand, then maybe we just go all in on that enemy and try to reach 1,000 there, because there's quite literally zero difference between, I mean, I guess experience-wise, there's a difference. Pride-wise, maybe there's a difference between dying to the boss because we spent all of our energy here versus actually beating the boss. But I mean, the whole point is getting to 1,000 points, right? So that's the thing that would be bad, would be if we didn't make that work. So let's go for, we'll do this one. Okay, I thought we might see a Highland Warrior. Is it the hard version? It is. So if we get 6 cards that are damaged, he destroys everything. Now, we should have several cards, namely the Slizzards, who can avoid that being the case. We do have a Dahlia in our starting hand, but we need a Slizzard in our starting hand. We can't have it in our deck and use our leader ability to get it out. That doesn't work with the Dahlia. Having a Slizzard in hand and using our leader ability to get a Dahlia, that the other way around, that does work. But let's dump you. Cool. I mean, again, we like cards that get boosted and get boosted a lot. Generally, the idea with this guy is he has lots of ways to damage lots of your cards by a little bit. And in some cases, will actually spawn damaged cards on your side of the board. Rather than trying to give a small number of boosts to most of your cards, generally the way to go is get a lot of boosts on just a few cards and just make there be basically no chance that he triggers the Bloodthirst on those. So, you know, he'll get his Bloodthirst 2, 3, or 4, but just make sure he never gets up to 5 or obviously 6, which by having a few highly boosted cards, you can usually make sure that that happens, and consumption is definitely a good way around that. Or using Cyclops to destroy a damaged card. But that being said, that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so is this maybe is this maybe the time we go for it? Is this the encounter we go for it? Initially, we're going to be a little bit vulnerable because we're not going to be able to immediately consume anything with Slizzard. But if we go Adalia, create a Slizzard, use Mirror Image to create another Slizzard, and then play the original Slizzard from our hand, and maybe even use another Mirror Image on our next turn after that. Just absolutely go to town, spawning as many Slizzards as possible. The problem is, when we spawn in the Slizzards with that spell, they are 1 power Slizzards, they are damaged. So that does contribute toward Highland Warrior's Bloodthirst. But as soon as our next turn rolls around, we can consume Detloff, they'll be boosted. Detloff himself will never be boosted. That's a little dangerous on him. But I mean, we're going to keep on consuming him over and over again, so if he starts the turn damaged, then by the time we finish the turn, he should be back to normal power. I think we're going for it. I think this is it. I think this is the moment we've been waiting for. Against what, by some accounts, is the hardest enemy in the game. Probably harder than many of the bosses. I think we just go for it. I think we just do it. So I'm not sure if it's going to be as feasible against the boss. I think we do it. Let's go... So it's Adalia first. And the row for Adalia shouldn't matter. I think we actually want to play her melee row, so we have more room here in the range row to get as many Slizzards as possible, because the Slizzards do need to be in the same row as Detloff. So I think if we do this, we get the Slizzard. Put it here. It has a shield as well, which is definitely useful. Then we go, and we will use Mirror Image to create additional copies of the Slizzard. And we do it again. So that means we are currently on Bloodthirst 2. These will consume Detloff on our next turn, which means they will get boosted at that point. Oh, actually, for what it's worth, they have... Okay, no, they're just 5 base power. They're not the empowered 8 base power version. I was going to say, like, there's a chance if they're technically with 8 base power, they will still be damaged. But you have a shield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Technically speaking, if they can damage every card and also spawn in a damage card on our side of the board, they'd have to hit you twice. It's pretty much impossible for them to trigger that Bloodthirst 6 on this first turn.
Any of you's got the courage?
Yeah, and this is more of a long-term setup for damaging our cards. We're doing it, boys. We're doing it! We're doing it. We're going for it. Absolutely. Okay. So... this turn is another Slizzard. Yes, you'll be damaged by 1 from this guy. But again, we have this brief moment of vulnerability in which, when we first play the Slizzards, they're weakened. Technically speaking, it would be fantastic if we could Mirror Image again here. I'm a little bit concerned about that, though. Let's see what the count of damaged units is. Let's first consume with this Slizzard, because this is the one that has the shield. It had its base power, is not starting off damage, so it was much safer. Now with these guys, this is now where we consume Detloff, and at this point, he's getting stronger every time we do this, so of course, the boosts are getting bigger. So, we do Mirror Image, which obviously, again, this is overkill. And is actually potentially making us more vulnerable to triggering this Bloodthirst 6 against this guy. But we are deliberately just trying to hit 1,000, and I'm making the conscious effort to invest all of our energy here rather than against the boss. So I acknowledge that, but we're going for it. So, do we do it? Because... yeah. I mean, 4 Slizzards is already more Slizzards than we had against the Templar. And Detloff has already been upgraded since then. So this is already a significantly better combo than what we had before. Is that reason enough to save some energy so we can potentially repeat against the boss? I guess. Okay, that's little bits and pieces of pokey damage
I'll smash your
that might hit a boosted card anyway. Okay, granted it didn't, but... So now we're gonna play Witch Apprentice, because this will immediately start boosting itself.
They're surprisingly clean creatures, as it happens.
Okay, so now again we're gonna consume first with our strongest ones, because they are least in need of those boosts. Then finish with the ones that do very much need the boosts, like you. And think you'll be fine. Think you'll be fine now. You'll get boosted by 2 at the end of the turn. So I think we should still damage everyone by 1. No big deal. Okay. So here's the odd thing. Oh, you know what? It's actually the bad thing. The bad thing is that unlike in multiplayer Gwent, I believe if you want to, you can deliberately play a card straight into your graveyard. I don't believe you can do that in Rogue Mage. I remember there being at least one prior occasion when I wanted to do that, but I was not allowed to. Technically speaking, that is the best thing for us to do right now, because we are getting tons and tons of points every turn from just consuming Detloff with all of our Slizzards, right? So that is our win condition, and that alone is more than enough. The risk that we are running is that even with all these boosted Slizzards, if they hit Bloodthirst 6, doesn't matter how highly these are boosted, everything is getting destroyed. So for that reason, especially because this Longship is dealing 1 damage to every unit that we play right now, that means that playing additional units, only for them to become damaged units, is not something that we like to do. So that's why something like Night Wraith, just gonna get dropped down to a 2. I don't really want to play it. Germain, just gonna get dropped down to a damage 4. Don't really want to play you. Werecat, technically you can get boosted from the Thrive, so maybe we feel a little bit better about that, but still not loving it. And Trigger Warrior is very nice, because that will immediately get boosted from the consumption. And, you know, it's potentially a way... I think what we do, we play a Werecat, and we rely on the Thrive for you. But, ooh. I was gonna say then we take a card that's a little more vulnerable to getting damaged and remaining damage like Germain and put you here, and then use Intriga Warrior to consume both Detloff and Germain simultaneously, but Germain is gonna fill this row, so that doesn't really work. We do that with Night Wraith, also gonna fill the row, doesn't really work. Do that with Pit Fighter. I guess it's Pit Fighter's second to last turn, then Trigger Warrior after that. Last 2 are, and then really Pit Fighter and Trigger Warrior, and obviously Girdle Giant Strength last turn. So that means it's working backwards from there. These 2 are sort of in the middle, and then this is this turn. So I mean, like, you could have potentially made the case for playing Were-Rat here, so we could have at least had the option of consuming it. I mean, we technically still can with Intriga Warrior, but we'll see. So now each consumption at this point is upwards of 30 points. This is scaling pretty quickly. Again, these are the concerns. Technically, even Detloff can get damaged. Hey, please destroy our damaged units. I would actually like for you to do that. Thank you. That's extremely helpful. In fact, now I'm suddenly much less concerned about having damaged units. Oh, and we had one more card we were going to draw, was Hjalmar. I mean, we could actually use Hjalmar to destroy the Longship, and that would make it much harder for them to damage our units. I think we do that. I think that's actually really good value. And then we can put you next to Detloff, which means we can use Intriga Warrior to consume you and Detloff simultaneously. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's as good of a deal as we could have asked for. So we will still hold off We will not consume you yet. We're just gonna go for a 2-for-1 deal with Trigger Warrior on our next turn. And now it is 50 points with every consumption. And of course, as soon as we get rid of one longship, here comes another.
Who's next? Any of you's got the courage?
Alright, but now it is this, I think, still, unless you wanna go Pit Fighter and consume both of these guys that could potentially remain on the board and be damaged. That might actually be worth doing. Again, can't really do the cards that spawn in stuff, otherwise we run the risk of running out of board space. So I think it might have to be that, to tell you the truth. So it means one less Detloff consumption, technically speaking, just to try to play around your Bloodthirst, which maybe we're being overly cautious, but I think given how this is still going, the Slizzard stuff is going fine. I think we just want to be careful that we don't mess it up through other ways. So it's an earlier Pit Fighter than I'd like, but
Let's take a gander at your insides.
okay, we are potentially going to get there without even having to use the Girdle Giant Strength yet. It is headed in that direction, it seems. That damages all units. Another relatively dangerous one. If you have a bunch of cards that are only on their starting power or just barely above the starting power, then it sets them up for a lot of Death Wish or Bloodthirst cards. So now it's in Trigger Warrior here. Again, would have liked to have gotten one free extra consumption on Detloff, but just to play it safe, in case they're gonna use one of the cards that can spawn in damaged units. And this next consumption is gonna do it. Right, we're gonna get 71 here, which means we are gonna go just over 1,000 points. We've done it! We've done it! 1,000 points achieved, and we still have a long ways to go. 2,000? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we made the conscious decision before to not go for a another Slizzard. We thought, you know, there's one battle after this. Maybe we make sure that we save at least a little bit of energy for that. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so now it's the Night Wraith and the Germain, just because they were going to be hard to make work. Otherwise, they're going to spawn in the 1 power units, and if those 1 power units get damaged, then they just get destroyed altogether. So don't need to worry about them. It's just Germain himself and the Night Wraith itself. So at this point, that's probably not too much of an issue. Almost leet. Ockfist. Okay, you'll get rid of all those cows, like I said. They get damaged, they're just gonna get destroyed, so it's not really a big deal. Alright, so second to last turn here. So similarly means we can spawn in stuff here. You two will remain damaged. Detloff we will consume. I'm trying to remember. Does this enemy have does he have Morkvarg Hard Terror to damage a card until it is damaged? Meaning that if we have a card that has been boosted potentially 1,000 times, that it would quite literally hit us 1,000 times. And remove all those boosts. Even then, this Inverter Warrior would remain unaffected. Detloff would remain unaffected. I think we might still have enough points even if that happens, so I think we will still proceed according to the plan here. which means first, consume Detloff. He will remain at 89. Rather than continue to consume Detloff, instead we're going to consolidate the power of all of our Slizzards and then boost up our one remaining Slizzard using Girdle Giant Strength. And in doing so, we're gonna see how high we can get. We've already reached 1,000. We've already reached 1,000, but my goodness, we're going for almost 3,000 here. Oh, I did one turn too early, didn't I? I did one turn too early. I lost track of our turns here. There is more for our Hunter Terror though. It is exactly the thing that I said would happen. Also, we're gonna be here for about 5 minutes. We could have avoided this if I had paid closer attention and not only remembered that we had not done the consumption yet on Detloff. And then, yeah, you would have dropped down one of our Slizzards from, what, like 300 down to 7. But now you're hitting a Slizzard from over 1,000 down to 7. So, that kind of stinks. Yeah, I thought that was our last turn. I might have got lost a little bit in our other discussion, and was thinking that we were just about to drop this Girdle Giant Strength on it and get up to 3,000. But no, that is our punishment for our hubris. We did break 1,000, yes. I think we will still be in position to win this one because we will still have a very big Detloff. We will still be able to consume that Detloff one more time. But we have, of course, already consolidated all of our Slizzards into a single Slizzard, which means there's only one consumption remaining here. And this Girdle Giant Strength is going to be... I mean, we could still double up this Slizzard after the fact. But you know what? Fair enough, you know? I kind of wanted to see them do this to us. And it wouldn't have been nearly as effective, nearly as hilarious if they had done it when it was just a 300 power Slizzard, right? No, it had to be 1,000+ point Slizzard. Just to punish us for that hubris. I think we'll still win this one. But as I said, no, how long did take your bets on how long you think this is going to take? What did I say, 5 minutes? I don't know, is anyone keeping track at this point? I guess that's the over-under. 5 minutes? Is it longer than 5 minutes or shorter than 5 minutes? That's the question. For what it's worth, I have done this to an opponent once in an actual multiplayer Gwent game. Not quite to this extent, but it was, in Gwent's Double Down seasonal event, they had I want to say 300-ish points a glace, but I had Last Say, and I had Morkvarg Heart of Terror, and I had not only Morkvarg, but I also had 2 Doggers on the board at the time, so I dealt like 250 or 300 damage, however much it was, and not only that, in doing so, I also boosted up both of my Doggers in the process, so it was... I suppose this is karma for this experience that I put that person through probably over a year ago at this point, but apparently I deserved it. Now, if they had Dogger on the board, then they would absolutely win. Fortunately, they do not. Fortunately, he's a key card, and one that I don't believe our opponents have access to for that very reason. But the most damage ever from one single unit? Possibly. The most boosts on one unit and the most damage on one unit? Maybe. It's down to double digits. Well, there it is. As I said, my mistake. Technically, we wanted to wait one more turn before we consolidated all the Slizzards. We did still reach 1,000, well over 1,000. In fact, we, in that case, definitely could have, well, would have reached 3,000 had they not done this. Let's see. Even if we did not consume the other Slizzards and they used Morkvarg, it would have been close, I think. We might have still reached 3,000. But, still feeling okay about this because we still have almost 3 times their point total, especially after we do this. And then still W like this. So, sure, it's 350 points, but we did reach 1,000, and then lose 1,000, and then get back up to 350. Alright, that's not gonna be enough for them to hit the Bloodthirst. Also, they're on cooldown anyway. So we'll still take the win, even after taking the most damage you have ever seen someone take. Worth it. Okay, let's see. Technically another source of consumption. Damage, we know what the deal is with Ethereal. I mean, yes, one more source of consumption is nice, but we have a lot of cards that do just one round of destruction. You know, we have the Cyclopses, we have the Dragon Warrior, we obviously have the Slizzard. I think more than anything, we're probably just looking for consistency here. Probably, I mean, this is the last encounter, right? And we have what? 12 energy, so we have enough energy for one more big spell. Which means either we use it on, and we have one more encounter with the boss. So either we use it on Visions to guarantee we get the Slizzard out, if we don't have it in our starting hand. Or we have the Slizzard in our starting hand, and we do what we did last time, and use Mirror Image to create digital copies of the Slizzard. Which is definitely preferable, so that's more high-end points. But that means that we want to make sure we increase the likelihood of having the Slizzard in our starting hand, and the way we do that is not by adding a card to our deck, it's by removing a card from our deck. That being Germaine. Alright. So mission accomplished. Could we have potentially tripled what our goal was? Yes. Yes, we could have. At least doubled, if not tripled. But you know, I'll take it, because that was pretty hilarious. That was pretty hilarious. I will take that. Can we do it against a boss, though? With only 12 energy left. Technically, the boss battle doesn't matter, because we lowered the difficulty on this encounter, so it's not going to give us a mutagen anyway, and also this is kind of the best enemy for countering boosts, so that's another reason why I deliberately made a point of powering ourselves up, or going for the big win with 1,000 points in the previous encounter. That is Slizzard. That is Slizzard. Now, we did also get a Queen Adalia in the previous match, and that's how we made one more Slizzard on top of that. So, and that would need to be our first turn play if we wanted to go that route. So I think we dump you. I mean, it is there. It is there. You're also worth some... Well, again, boosts on this White Dragon is not great, generally speaking, because freezing enemy units cannot be boosted. Unless we get rid of this wing, which we might be able to do with Hjalmar. So I think we actually will try to make it work with the Slizzard. Fortunately, if we consume Detloff, he will still increase his base power, even if the Slizzards get frozen and can't get boosted. So that is sort of a workaround. We'll still get some power on Detloff, but you might just get completely shut down. So I think we'll do that. So if we had any intention of using Adalia to create additional Slizzards, we would have to wait a turn and would be caught in a bit of a holding pattern, just waiting to see, do we happen to randomly draw into her? Unfortunately, we don't quite have enough energy to do both Visions and Mirror Image, so that's the... If we had slightly more energy, just the tiniest bit more, we'd be able to guarantee that we get her here with Visions, but then we duplicate Visions. So that'd be our first spell in the game, rather than duplicate Slizzard with our rather than get additional duplications on Slizzard from Mirror Image. So I guess that still wouldn't be great. So we're gonna do it. There's the chance that we end up getting Adalia and we'll say, well, So be it. We got it in the previous match. We could use her to create additional Dragon Warriors if we do happen to get her. So it's not completely a lost cause if that does happen. But we're definitely doing this. That is what we're going for here. So the risk is if these guys get frozen, which they do. Then we could be in a lot of trouble. We really need to get rid of you. And you as well. But, so I think that means you cannot currently get boosted. Huh. That is unfortunate. Because we can consume you and get you high enough to destroy you. Or you. Technically you are still on cooldown, even on their next turn. So does that mean that we go consume, consume, that gets you up to what, an 11? Just not quite enough to destroy you. We could consume you with this, avoid the, we would not get boosted this first turn, but then once we play Cyclops at the very end, Detloff would be high enough to destroy you. And then next turn it's Cyclops on Detloff again, destroy you once you're about to come off cooldown. That might be the play. I think that's probably the play. Right, because this is... would be enough to destroy you, but that's not quite as time sensitive. That's just ever so slightly short. And Hjalmar's also not enough. Except... hold on. That was the right one, right? Yeah. Now you can get boosted. If you get moved, you still get destroyed, which is concerning. So it means we actually want to flood the rows with... well, we no longer have... Germain actually would have been kind of useful, come to think of it, but Night Wraiths would now probably be our best option for that. That's why we're going to destroy you next turn so that you don't get moved. Hopefully. Now we get a Dahlia, which actually is not bad. Because initially, yes, we were hoping we'd get our turn 1 to create additional Slizzard. True. But we are now in need of a lot of damage, and this deck does not normally have much in the way of damage. So I think we need to destroy you this turn. So if we use a Dahlia, we can get an additional Cyclops, use that to destroy Detloff and destroy you. Next turn we go Cyclops here and destroy Detloff to destroy you. And then we're probably looking at trying to use Hjalmar, or maybe at that point Hjalmar can break through you. Something like that. Oh, also. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah, initially we had this set up so that you were going to have a unit on both sides, but that's no longer the case. So, I was going to start to try to flood this row to prevent Slizzard from getting moved into this row, because if we're completely full, then that can't happen, but... yes, we'll do this instead.
Destiny is unswerving. Cheated. It will not be.
Alright, now we can consume again. So this is basically the anti-boosting boss, because the Frost can destroy your highly boosted cards. And that is why, in large part, we made a point of being all aggressive. Yeah, not liking that. Why we made a point of being aggressive in the previous encounter, because I'm not really sure this is going to work out nearly as well for us. This boss does kind of counter us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so Hjalmar does technically have enough damage here by himself to destroy you. So I think we will probably go that route. And then save Cyclops for the left wing, because this one's a little bit harder to take down. Or whatever other... You know, if they have another Wild Hunt Bruiser, maybe we go after that. Okay. Now... Assume... Trying to make a point of having our unfrozen Slizzard be the recipient of the biggest boosts. If possible, but it's easier said than done. Oh, well, I mean, we can do it, depending on the order in which we consume, but... Can't control who they freeze. You're gonna get boosted a bit, but that's not something we really want to see. So that's the last card we're gonna get. So this is what it's gonna look like here. I mean, technically, Witch Apprentice is the card that benefits the most from getting played next. Unless we look at Cyclops. Technically, we go Cyclops, destroy Detloff, destroy Wing. We can draw into one more card. And at that point, maybe we get something that helps us flood this row. Which means it's possible that we might be able to prevent them from moving anything into this row, which would be ideal, because then these scissors are safe. But that's, at the moment, not yet a possibility, or at least very unlikely at this point. We'll try, though. That is, since we no longer have Germain, that is our best card at flooding a row. So we'll take it. So they may be able to destroy all the Slizzards, which, depending on if they can get some movement happening, they will try to do. But because Detloff has Veil, he is immune to that. So if we continue to consume him, then we can kind of counter what they're trying to do in that way. But let's go Night Wraith here. Again, at this point, yes, technically, Witch Apprentice early is the best at maximizing points, but I don't know if you looked at the score here. Maximizing points, it's not really what we're trying to do, as much as just prevent them from completely negating 300 plus of the points that we already have. Which is why you're going first to try to flood this row as quickly as possible. And then technically it means we can go for Ethereal soon thereafter if we'd like to, but... Okay. See, this is what we are terrified of. Moving random units means we need this row to get flooded and get flooded quick. At this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 means we need 4 more cards in this row. This is going to happen in 2 turns. We cannot fill this row in time. And this is going to go away. So there's definitely going to be... We're almost certainly going to lose at least 1, maybe 2, possibly all 3 Slizzards. Move a random enemy unit to the other row 4 times. I mean, just get a bunch of other units on the board and hope that it happens to be low value ones that get moved, right? I think that's pretty much all you can do. Yes, Ethereal converts rats into slightly more powerful Ethereals, but that's not super time sensitive. So I think it's actually Witch Apprentice here. And now... I mean, we will still do the consumption, of course, because it is still making Detloff stronger. And he is immune to the frost, because he has that veil. You don't have any frozen soldiers left. We just got rid of the last of them. But this is why also Witch Apprentice was not super high priority, because chances were decent that it was going to get frozen as well. Didn't we have another way we were planning to destroy a card? We go. I thought we were. Oh, we did get rid of a wing for some reason. I just glanced over this and thought this was a wing, but you kind of just blend right in. Okay, so this is happening next turn. So the one thing we shouldn't do is we shouldn't play Trigger Warrior right now, because that would reduce the number of cards on the board, and we want to just maximize the total number of cards on the board. So we'll go. I mean, Werecat earlier technically means more time to trigger Thrive, but I guess. That means we'll go with you. Then just keep on consuming. And for what it's worth, I mean, we could have considered, I mean, this would not have been the quote-unquote right play to make, but, well, you know, it's going to happen anyway. We are still going to hit 1,000 points against the boss. I was going to say we might have wanted to consider using Girdle Giant Strength. It would have meant that we would likely have just invested more in you that was going to get destroyed. Hey, kind of like the previous encounter, right? But I was going to say, you know, reaching 1,000 points against the boss would have been kind of nice, and we did make it happen. That is probably about to get much, much lower than 1,000, but we've now done it on 2 separate occasions, including one against the boss. So absolutely still mission accomplished. Who gets moved? Oh, that's also movement. This is random. Okay, 1 Slizzard. Lost 1 Slizzard. Grand scheme of things, not bad. Not bad, honestly. There are now a lot more frozen adventurers, though. So we would like to play Ethereal here, but that's no longer a great idea. I mean, we would still... Is it even possible for us to flood? I mean, we actually kind of like having these on the board. I know you're gonna... Well, you're gonna eat them. But we can still flood this row. There's technically more ways to do that now. But I think it might kind of have to be... Well... Is it a suboptimal and Trigger Warrior over here? Is it suboptimal Ethereal? Credit. I mean, do we even want to try to stop these frozen adventurers? Lose self by 6? It's not that big of a... Well... I mean, it's going to consume them more quickly than we can get rid of them at this stage, right? I suppose. Technically speaking, I believe that is the case. It's kind of too late for us to do anything about it at this point. So we'll just play for Ethereal. So they have at least one more source of movement. I assume they're going to move one of these Slizzards. That would be the logical choice for them to make. Oh, no.
Weapons on the bench now.
Yeah, 1 down from that Kirak guard. This one's going to take this one out as well. So, unfortunately means Girdle Giant Strength is not going to have an amazingly powerful Slizzard to go after. We did still get a lot of consumptions on Detloff, which means, again, because he's immune, that should be pretty much permanent, and then we can use the Girdle Giant Strength on him at the end. So that's still something. And, I mean, I suppose we'll consume him again then, because this is now our best combo. We'll do this. So yeah, we anticipated they would probably shut down the Slizzards. We slowed them down a little bit. But eventually, it caught up to us. Hey, you can't rupture this either. Fortunately, yeah, they go after the other Slizzard. That's not terribly surprising. But now we just go Pit Fighter, and we'll finish with Girdle Giant Strength. Or technically speaking, Detloff is not going to have any chance of getting higher. We do not have any other ways to consume him. So that means that there's no reason not to do Girdle Giant Strength here. And by playing Pit Fighter on our last turn, there's less of a chance that they both freeze him and move him and destroy him, because at 41 points, that's, you know, if we can make sure that he doesn't get answered, that's a pretty big deal as well. So we'll double you. this might get destroyed. But this 178 points Detloff is pretty safe. And now we're hoping that this pit fighter that we waited to play is safe as well. So we won't finish on 1,000 points. I suppose we didn't in either of the encounters, but we did reach 1,000 and well over 1,000 the previous one. In fact, again, had that potential of maybe getting as high as 3,000. But hey, we got 1,000 against a boss, and in both cases, they still tried to counter and did successfully counter all of our boosting, but we still had the resiliency to bounce back. So, you know, there's something to be said for that, right? And they do freeze him. But that will not be enough, so we'll still take the win. You know, it doesn't matter that much, because this was not going to give us a mutagen, but nonetheless, we still had a successful 1,000+ point run for several reasons. And it does unlock a few things for us. Did we have these guys before? Varian Scytheman boosts self by 1 for each boosted allied unit. Okay. Keltullus, the end of your turn, destroy the lowest powered unit on the side with the most units. Again, I think I had said this at the end of our previous run, where I had suspected that there was going to be another archetype that was available for us to use, that being Control, and it would have things like Lock, or in this case, I was thinking Keltullus could be a key card, and you know, the other way you can control is try to make sure that your opponent always has more units than you, so Keltullus is always destroying one of your opponent's cards every turn, which is very powerful when set up properly. Zoltan Scoundrel, I assume is the same in multiplayer Gwent, where the melee row version damages every unit in a row, whereas the range row version boosts every unit in a row, in addition to Zoltan himself is like a 4 power card. Masterful Thunderstorm we've now unlocked as well. Damage all units on an enemy row by 1. Guaranteed all units by 1. If any enemy units were destroyed this way, repeat this ability. Can that repeat indefinitely if you continue to trigger that Death Wish, basically? Or Death Blow, basically? Sort of like a Regis in multiplayer Gwent? Because if so, then that is very strong, and that explains the 9 energy cost. I think is the highest we've ever seen, even more than some of those powerful spells we were using this time. We saw how big those were. Boat Builders, we saw some of our opponents use this before. Give allied unit 2 armor. Yigern, talk about armor. It has 13-point body. I know it's blocked here, but at least in multiplayer Gwent, 13-point body. Gain armor equal to twice the number of cards in your hand. So you want to play it relatively early so that it gets a decent amount of armor, because if it loses the armor, then it just gets destroyed altogether. So, high power card, but a little bit fragile in that way. Albrick, move any card from your deck to the top if it's a unit, boosted by 4. Consistency, and if you have a key card that's a unit, I mean all of the key cards are units, that's a great way to make sure you can draw into it, so that is nice. Then, Warhound, a treasure that we have not seen before. 3 power, deploy spawn copies of self on this row until the number of units on this row is equal to the number of units on the opposite row. So if your opponent has flooded their side of the board with a ton of cards and you have not, you could potentially fill an entire row with Warhounds, which, sure, they're 3-point units, which is not that powerful, but there's up to 9 units in a row, so that's 27 points, potentially, in one turn, from 9 different units, which is great for Hive Mind. And, you know, that's potentially quite useful. Combine that with something like Fallen Knight that gets boosted by 1 anytime you spawn a unit, then that would be fantastic. Destroy the lowest power enemy unit. Imperial Manticore, yep. Death Wish. Pache, Thrive, whenever the Thrive is triggered, spawn an Andrea Larva, which is another Thrive unit. So it just loads up on tons and tons of Thrive. So yeah, definitely some very strong cards here. And this looks like that's going to be a Hive Mind package. So that's some good stuff. And just for confirmation... Yeah. So, no mutagen. no story progress in that way, but in terms of bucket list things, definitely can check a couple things off there. We reached 1,000 points, potentially could have gotten as high as 3,000, but on 2 separate occasions. Once against what is arguably the most difficult enemy in the entire game, including bosses. I mean, it's not actually a boss, but the Highland Warlord guy is no joke. And then against the boss as well, we also got up to 1,000 points now. Granted, in both cases, we got those cards either destroyed or significantly weakened. In one case, it was pretty hilarious. In the other case, we kind of knew that was going to happen eventually. So I think we'll take it. I think we'll take it. In terms of where that leaves us, we've now completed a run with every key card from every faction. We've done a maximum randomization run and succeeded there. We've done a 1,000-point run and succeeded at that. So as for what we have left here, I mean, there isn't too much outside of just if we want to repeat a faction slash key card slash maybe just go back into focusing on the chaos decks for totally randomized stuff and see where that leaves us, and bump back up the difficulty so that we go back to getting mutagens and progressing with the story, because I suspect we're pretty close to finishing it, but we are obviously not there yet, and that's really the only thing that it feels like we have left. Sure, we can still unlock additional things if we are to get more experience, and that'll happen along the way, but I guess I say all this to say that I'm not sure that I ever really intended to 100% Rogue Mage, or at least I never felt as though I needed to do that. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Is that something that you would like us to do? Should we continue to play with whatever, is there a specific archetype or key card, or do you just want us to do chaos for the rest of our runs? What do you want us to do the remainder of those runs if you do want us to continue to progress? Because we've at least tried everything and had a good run with all those things. Do we want to progress at all, or does it feel like, at this point, we've pretty much experienced all the big things that there are to experience in Rogue Mage, and at this point, we can set the game down and say, you know what? We're content with where things stand. So let me know. Let me know. But either way, very happy to check this one off the bucket list, because this one was, I was waiting and anticipating this one for a long time, thinking about, how best to pull it off. So I'm very glad to see that we got the chance to make that happen.